person to have taken a pratfall in response to all of this. There have been a number of MPs who've made some very strange comments. So you can see here another one from Guido Fawkes talking about John Ashworth, a Labour MP, accidentally sending condolences to the family of the Liverpool taxi passenger. So if you just want to play this clip.
I mean, absolutely shocking that would happen anywhere, but particularly outside a women's and maternity hospital. Obviously, we pay our respects and send our condolences to the family of the man who lost his life. And obviously want to thank the emergency services for the way in which they responded.
Taxi passenger, of course, being the man who blew himself up in attempting to blow up a school. Not a school, a hospital. But once again, this is not the first time. This is not the only member of Parliament who has made some very strange comments. If we move along again, we can see that Oliver Dowden, a Conservative MP, has expressed his deep sympathy for the person that's lost their life and claimed that he was joining the Prime Minister in doing so. Once again, just a reminder, the person who lost their life was the terrorist trying to blow up a hospital. Later, Labour MP Charlotte Nichols posted a tweet claiming that she was sending love to the family and friends of the person who was killed in the incident. The tweet has since been deleted, probably for the best. And to top it all off, the Mirror, that's right, the newspaper, then posted a Facebook status saying, police have now named the man who sadly died. R.I.P. with a little broken love heart. Oh. The statement was swiftly edited to remove the heartbreak, although it's still visible in their post history. So this is not something that is specific to Labour. All of our MPs are, well, the vast majority of our MPs in the UK are jokes who have no idea what they're talking about half the time.
It just goes to show as well that a lot of this emoting of sympathy and sadness over the deaths of people in these incidents is purely automatic optics gathering, because without even knowing the details, having any information about this person, they were emoting as if he was some casualty.
They were tripping up over themselves to offer condolences.
I'm sympathetic. Look at me. I'm sympathetic. Vote for me. This sort of this mentality is animating these utterances.
Yeah, so whereas Jeremy Corbyn might be deciding to take legal action against those who decide to mock him, it's no problem because Labour, the Conservatives, and most of everybody else involved in the corporate media are making themselves look enough of a joke as it is anyway.
Yes.
Well, that's great. Well, hello, my baby gorillas. And thank you very much to the Lotus Eaters, doing a fantastic job down there. Just let's make sure I am on here. And we are in here. Yes. Well, hello. Is my sound coming through okay, guys? Let me just get rid of one. Hi, Davey. Hope you're doing well. Hi, Bernadette. How are you? Good to see you. Nice to see you. To see you nice. And thank you very much for tuning in. Apologies for the delay. Sometimes there is technical issues. And sometimes the expensive sound equipment is not connected to the computer, and it sometimes takes a period of time to try and find out exactly why, rather than just being able to switch on the computer and the sound card and get automatically connected. Sometimes it takes a period of time to actually change. Just let me know about the sound. Is the sound coming through okay? Are you hearing me? Is everything okay? And we will get started on this. Let me just close these. That was great. We'll keep that Lotus Eaters on. And let us have a look at Wee Nippy. Wee Nippy said she's not going anywhere. I'll come back to Sawa in a minute. Belgian ports told to prepare for Scottish independence. Now, there isn't an overall majority at present. It's actually, there doesn't look like there's been much of a change, significant change since the last Scottish referendum. And with that, it means that if the SNP call a second referendum, Nicola Sturgeon could lose. That is a big problem for the SNP, because then people would have to focus on the SNP's domestic record, which is abysmal. Under Nicola Sturgeon, possibly the worst First Minister that we've had since we've had devolution. Then people would then have to examine what she's done. And there it is here. We can see here, First Minister tells BBC Koonsberg she is going nowhere. Wishful thinking of opposition parties is a compliment. Well, she should be going somewhere because she looks like she's broken the law. I apologise if I look to the right because I'm looking at what I'm trying to say. I've got this in the new position, and I hope that both the sound and the quality is actually better. So if I look off screen, let me just move that out the way, that's annoying. That I hope that this is a better sort of angle for me and to be able to present. So we're going to, as I said, this is all going to get changed in a short period of time as well. And let me know if this camera goes off as well. I don't know what's happened. It seems to be freezing a lot. So Nicola Sturgeon says she's not going anywhere. And as you said by the title, which I'll come on to later, as I said by the title of this, that I'm good, thanks, sounds perfect, that's great, Bernadette, thanks very much. The Nicola Sturgeon is doing exactly the same policies as Boris Johnson and Jacinda Ardern and that dopey guy in Canada, and then we've got dopey Joe Biden. These are all globalist shills. These are all doing exactly the same policies, ineffectual first ministers, members of prime ministers, presidents, because they're all on the underlying globalist agenda, which they don't tell you what it is. A lot of people say it's the UN's Objective 2030, I think it is. And they're all trying to do the same palaver. Reject capitalism, reject freedom to be this new authoritarianism, which all of these absolute doughballs are actually involved in. And none of it's good. None of it's going to be beneficial to you. If you don't protect your freedom, they will take it away. And I don't know if we're actually protecting our freedom yet. So let's say here, after 31 people have been killed because of the Conservatives' policies of housing illegal immigrants and kidding on their asylum seekers, as if they've not already signed up to this, as if Priti Patel, as the figurehead, as the Home Secretary, is not puppeteered by the higher-ups in the Conservative Party and then again the higher-ups in the Bilderberg group, that she is a mere puppet in this and probably lacks. That's why she talks a good game but doesn't deliver.
Across Europe, at least 27 people lost.
So this is GB News.
27 people lost their lives. I know the whole House
I think it's up to 31.
will join me in expressing our profound sorrow, and our thoughts are with the loved ones of those who have died and with those who responded to an extremely distressing event. Information is still being gathered about the situation in France as this becomes more and more clearer. The Prime Minister chaired an
Just becomes clearer, doesn't more and more clearer.
emergency Cobra meeting last night and then spoke to the President of France. I'm glad that President Macron indicated his determination to stop the vile people smuggling gangs and, importantly, to work with...
But you're already signed us up to the Barcelona, the Conservative Party have already signed us up to the Barcelona process, the Union in the Mediterranean, the UN Compact in Marrakesh and Morocco. And the Conservative Party, the globalists within the Conservative Party, have de facto set us up with an open immigration policy. And not only that, but they're also treating the people that are here, that are indigenous to the UK, as second-class citizens. Because I'm sure that they're not put up in 4-star hotels if they've become homeless or anything else has happened to them. So there's one rule for one for another.
Work closely with all partners across Europe. I have literally, Madam Deputy...
Yeah, they're working in conjunction. So don't forget Macron's a globalist shill as well, as is Merkel. So these are all globalist shills. It's not that all of the main parties, the Green Party, maybe slightly less the Green Party, but the Green Party, certainly the SNP under Nippy, the illiberal, liberal, undemocratic Democrats, the fake Conservatives, the con socialists, and under Boris, and the Labour Party, and the Welsh nationalists who are believing getting governed by the undemocratic European Union, and also believe in open borders. So let's not kid on that this has not been deliberately orchestrated. And by sacrificing Priti Patel, who talks a good game, doesn't deliver, deliberately not delivering because the Conservative Party have signed us up for the globalist agenda as well, that it doesn't matter. It's like arranging deck chairs on the Titanic. It does not matter who you've got in. It's the underlying Conservative Party. Until you get rid of these parties to actually have a political party that will be tough on immigration and not put people who have illegally came here up in 4-star hotels, praising the people who are trying to kill us. Children, just like they killed children in the Ariana Grande concert. These scumbags are actually praising the killers.
Speaker, just spoken again with my French counterpart, Minister Gummerman, and I've once again reached out and made my offer very clear to France in terms of joint...
Don't forget, Chirac, Macron, sorry, not Chirac, Macron is a globalist show. Part of the bankers like Roofy Poofy Sunak, and he is... he's just another show for the Bilderbergers. And just now, what's happening with the immigration and the French police directing these some unfortunate immigrants, asylum seekers. But if they're bringing in third world ideas into the UK, it's us that's going to have to change to fit them, which is not the correct scenario. If they were content with the way that it was getting governed in the country of origin with their ideas, then they should have just stayed put. But we already know that the Conservative Party have signed us up to de facto open immigration.
France and UK cooperation, joint patrol...
Any political party who is not saying to deport illegal immigrants or even criminals. So we've got the doughballs in the Labour Party who would be even worse on this issue. It's not like you can go from the Conservatives and expect that the Labour Party are going to be any better under a globalist Bilderberger like Sir Keir Starmer or the Islamo-fascist member of a child rapist death cult Anis Sarwar. You're not going to get anything improved under these characters, are you? They're probably going to be more racist, more anti-white, just like the white supremacy, which I'll come on to in a minute, white supremacy that keeps getting mentioned by Dopey Joe.
To prevent these dangerous journeys from taking place. I've offered to work with France to put more officers on the ground.
Oh, that's going to make a lot of difference while you're still offering 4-star hotels to people who have illegally come into the UK. It's obviously a pull factor that you're responsible, the Conservative Party as a whole are responsible for.
Do absolutely whatever is necessary to secure the area so that vulnerable people do not risk their lives by getting into unseaworthy boats. Madam Deputy Speaker, there is a global illegal migration crisis.
Yeah, because it's been pushed by the open door immigration, the Conservative Party, the Labour Party, the Liberals, the SNP, the Welsh Nationalists, and I'm not sure about the what's happening with the Unionists, what the Unionist point in Northern Ireland, but I certainly know that Sinn Féin are probably a postmodernist Marxist progressive, progressive, stop saying progressive, just say Marxist, postmodernist Marxist political entity.
As I've stated many times,
They are more bothered about the person who's trying to blow up children now than they are about the actual, because they can't then admit that it's their policies, both the Labour and the Conservative Party's policies, that have caused this problem and allow people in who are now mass murdering children, as they did in the Ariana Grande concert, as that guy tried to blow up a hospital full of women and children, who was trying to, in turn, before that blow up, Remembering Sunday palaver of a guy who shouldn't be in the country because he was a legal immigrant and he had failed asylum seeker. As a failed asylum seeker, should have been deported. And the Conservative Party, thanks to the Labour Party, who cannot win elections is now de facto allowing open immigration.
These journeys across the Channel
And not even deporting criminals who may have raped and murdered.
Are absolutely unnecessary.
And praising people who tried to mass murder women and children in a hospital. I mean, it's absolutely disgusting. You guys need to have a look at yourself and actually say to yourself, why am I voting for these people?
As I have been warning for 2 years, they are also lethally dangerous. What happened yesterday was a dreadful shock. It was not a surprise, but it is also a reminder of how vulnerable people are put at peril.
So basically, because the Conservative Party have allowed people de facto open immigration just to walk into the country, not protected the borders, they're still on the globalist agenda, as is every other party. The underlying issue is the globalist agenda. They are not going to change until you vote out all the people in the parliament or the parties in the parliament and get somebody who's going to be tough on immigration. We're just going to, it's like a merry-go-round.
When in the hands of criminal gangs. There is also, Madam Deputy Speaker, no quick fix. There
is a quick fix. The quick fix is to get rid of the Conservative and the Labour Party and the illiberal Liberals. That's the quick fix. Stop voting for them. Vote for people who are going to be tough on immigration. They don't want to be a quick fix because they don't want to deport people who might even be a direct threat to the UK, who have caused... They're funding the lawyers to actually then facilitate these people to stay in the country even after they've committed horrendous and heinous crimes or might be a direct threat to people in the UK. They don't care.
It's about addressing long-term pull factors, smashing...
Which you're putting people up in 4-star hotels, which you're not doing for the indigenous population.
Criminal gangs that treat human beings as cargo.
It's all your fault. It's all the Conservatives' fault. And the rest of the political entities.
Tackling supply chains. This requires a coordinated international effort. And I've been in constant contact with my counterparts from France, Poland, Austria, Belgium, Italy and Greece.
Oh, brilliant, great. Unless you start deporting illegal immigrants back to the country of origin, this is not going to change.
To name just a few.
And then they're giving... Now they're bringing in racist policies against white males, basically. Wee Nippy's doing that, her and her fake nationalist party, which I'll come on to in a minute, are bringing in policies against white males, just like Dopey Joe is in America, sacking anti-vaxxers, which I'll come on to as well. People who don't want mandates as well. Two separate things. That they know that they're doing this. It's them that are doing it. And all of Boris, I told you before Boris even got elected, that Boris wanted illegal immigrants to be allowed to have an amnesty and stay in the UK. It's coming from the top. And it's coming from people like the Bilderberg Group who are putting in people to allow the continuation. And if you think about it from a mafia point of view, the Bilderbergers control the politicians. The politicians don't work for the people. They work for the Bilderbergers, who are supported by Reach PLC. Who owns Reach PLC? I believe that there's 6 companies in America that control all the media. So that's 6 individuals who control all the media in the US, and that's why you're getting such a politically slanted point of view through your media, through the talking heads. I mean, it's disgraceful how opinionated and how biasly slanted to the globalist agenda that these companies are. Now with the woke, which is racist, postmodernist, Marxist agenda that's been allowed to ferment just like in the UK through our universities.
Because of the nature of the crisis and the fact that we are seeing 80 million displaced people in the world.
Well, I mean, that again, the globalists shills bombing countries in the Middle East as well, and they're causing the problems. The globalist shells are causing the issues, and then we've got to then in turn have the situations that are actually happening in our country, including the mass murder of children by Muslims, the stabbing of MPs and Muslims. We've had up to 80 mass murder attempts, foiled attempts in 7/7, who also blew up people. Then we had the Glasgow airport trying to blow up innocent people going on holiday.
This was, of course, Madam Deputy Speaker, a major theme of discussion at the G7 Interior Ministers back in September. We're also seeing it play out on several land borders in Europe and in the Mediterranean Sea. And given the chance, the traffickers will always find people to exploit and manipulate. Some of them do not even know that they are coming to the UK.
Well, I would suggest then that they're taken back and put on planes and put back to the country of origin. It would be cheaper just sending them back to the country of origin where they're from.
This does mean tackling issues upstream and not waiting until people have reached EU countries. And I've always been extremely clear that I want to cooperate and am cooperating with international...
Having been deported myself, having been deported from a Muslim country, the Muslim country weren't sending them to Albania or Africa, or sending me to Albania or Africa. They were sending me back to the country of origin, the UK. I was put in a flight. If my friends hadn't been there, I would have lost all my luggage as well, or lost what was left of it after it had been stolen again over there. So there's one rule for them, one for another, and that's what these clowns are trying to bring in as well in Parliament, as is wee Nippy.
Colleagues, the United Kingdom has given its unflinching and generous support to France to end this terrible trade in people smuggling. We are not working just to end these crossings because we don't care and we're heartless. The United Kingdom has a clear and a generous, humane approach to asylum seekers. And
yeah, you don't deport anybody, even the people who have illegally came here, who are not asylum seekers.
Refugees. Yes, people should come here legally, and the system must be fair. But the main issue is this.
Well, if you don't deport illegal immigrants, de facto, the Conservative Party, which is not in your manifesto, is an open immigrations party, just like the rest of them. But it's not in one of your manifestos. If you're not deporting illegal immigrants, then you or foreign criminals, then you are a de facto open immigration party, and that you have not told that. That's not been put forward to the British people in any one of your manifestos, including wee Nippies.
Crossing the channel in small boats is extremely dangerous, and yesterday was the moment that many of us had feared for many years. The criminals that facilitate these journeys are motivated by self-interest and profit, not by compassion.
Well, you're motivated by the fact that you're allowing people to walk in, and it's giving cheaper labour and destroying the cultural and hegemony of the country.
They threaten, intimidate, bully and assault the people who get into these boats, and they have a complete, absolute disregard for...
It looks like the French police were actually helping the boats. And where are all these boats coming from? Is this the money that's getting sent over to France? Who's supplying these boats?
Human right. They use the money they make for other heinous crimes, and we simply have to break their business model. And of course...
Oh, by giving people 4-star hotels and then giving them council houses ahead of, which they've not paid for, ahead of the people who have been here, who have paid contributions for years and years. Oh, come on.
Bring them to justice. The government's new plan for immigration, which will be put into law through the Nationality and Borders Bill, is a longer-term solution that will address many of these underlying factors to deterring illegal migration and addressing underlying pull factors into the UK's asylum system. It will bring in a range of measures, including the one-stop appeals process, the ability to process claims outside the country, the ability to declare inadmissibility to our asylum system and have differentiation. Those who arrive in the UK having passed through safe countries and life sentences for people smugglers. People should, Madam Deputy Speaker, claim asylum in the first safe country they reach, and nobody needs to flee France in order to be safe. However, Madam Deputy Speaker, we are not waiting until the Nationality and Borders Bill passes. We are undertaking a wide range of operational and diplomatic work. I have already approved maritime tactics, including boat turnarounds for Border Force to deploy. The government, the police, the National Crime Agency are taking action at every level to take down the people smuggling gangs. And
yeah, it's you that needs taking down, you and the Conservative Party and the Bilderbergers who are actually facilitating this. It's you that's facilitating it. It's the people smugglers are just a part of the overall open borders that you've already signed us up to at a political level.
Once again, however, we cannot do it alone.
Yeah, it's you that's doing it and just gaslighting the public. That's what's happening. What are you saying? Hi Teresa, how you doing? Sorry, how can so many people be blinded? Because they're getting gaslit by the same thing's happening in the United States. They're being gaslit by the media. So that's why, Teresa, that's why these people are not being able to understand, because people who are just watching the television and taking their sources from the mainstream sources are being gaslit by Priti Patel, by the Conservative Party, and they're not politically objective enough to be able to understand what is actually going on. David, we are the midst of the biggest psychological operation in the universe. Yeah, absolutely. We're getting totally the British population, unless you, which I am, obviously, slightly above the average person in politics, I understand it, and I'm not getting gaslit, and that's why they smear me, because I'm not getting gaslit by their nonsense. This war being waged on the minds of people, and they have no idea their minds have been controlled. Of course they are. I mean, even Jordan Peterson. Let me see if I can get Jordan Peterson.
Is a switch bike. This is a switch bike.
Yeah.
No, this is a switch.
So that's just from Motivation Madness.
You learn through voluntary contact.
Not up.
People have a relationship with the transcendent. Like we're remarkable creatures, and
It's not up. I think it's on this. I think I've actually got it here. I think I actually shared it. So, I'll go back to Jordan in a minute. So here's Hester McVeigh. Hester McVeigh of the Conservative Party thinks that it might be an idea. So I don't even know what the hell I say. So they're not even giving me, I don't even know, reject all. Don't know what's going on here. Saving the exit. So no more cash. No more cash. So we're already years into a conservative party who are now woke as woke can be. So after years and years in governance, now all of a sudden the Conservative Party have decided there's no more cash for activists so basically communists, postmodernist communists who have been gaslighting the British people. And all of a sudden, the Conservative parties have decided that they might actually be a Conservative party because they're getting criticism for being con-socialist, which Tim Rice coined, and which is correct. Activists who want to cancel British culture, says Hester McVeigh. Hester McVeigh is calling for a crackdown to stop woke activists. Now, you would think that would be one of the first things that an actual Conservative party would do, is not propagate postmodernist Marxist, racist postmodernist Marxism. So this would be by Marshall Hall on Wednesday 24, 2021. and organisations that attack British history and culture receiving taxpayers' money under the Conservative Party. So the Conservative Party are funding these people who are attacking British culture. All right, I see. So why are they doing that? I thought they were meant to be a Conservative Party. Why is the Conservative Party, if they're not actually doing the globalist agenda, why are the Conservative Party funding postmodernist Marxists to destroy British culture, while at the same time de facto having an open immigration policy? And these are meant to be the Conservative Party. All right, I see. Oh, here we go. We've got John Cleese speaking about the cancel culture. Come on, John, let's hear you. Where are you? Eyes aren't on.
Culture. How much punch does it have, in your opinion? How much?
So this is 60 Minutes. I love 60 Minutes. Avi Yemeni, Alex Jones, and 60 Minutes. My three go-to political commentators. Absolutely brilliant. I've loved 60 Minutes for years and years, especially the American one.
How much power does it have?
But it's this pathetic idea that people can't stand up for themselves and can't hear different opinions. And I don't think we should encourage the most easily upset, the most easily offended, the most hypersensitive people.
It's harassment. It's harassment to be the political class allowing people to be sacked. There's a guy get £10 million. They get sacked for being white. And they're now sacking, brought in a woman of colour, whatever that means, and another woman to replace the job that this guy had been doing. He get £10 million in America.
In our culture to establish a cultural norm. I think we should have more people who are a little more humorous, maybe a tiny bit more stoical, and a little bit more, have a little more faith in people's strength. I speak out against it because I believe it's harmful. And I will continue to speak out against it because I haven't heard any good arguments in favor of it.
Why do you think it's harmful?
It's harmful for a lot of reasons. I think it's based on a complete misunderstanding of humor. You see, if you become too protective of other people, and a lot of the PC people don't really ever protest on their own halves, they're always protesting on someone else's half, it's because they feel that these people can't really look after themselves. So as I point out in my stage show, we can make jokes about Germans and Swedes and Aussies and British and Canadians and all these people, but suddenly you mentioned in California, you mentioned Mexicans, and everybody tightens up. And I want to say, well, are they so pathetic, so helpless, so unable to take a joke that they have to be treated? It seems to be extraordinarily condescending.
The Mexicans are a great bunch, but yeah, there's Farage again.
We've been out since 6 this morning, probably explain something.
So GB News, writing off GB News, when I went down to speak outside GB News, Nigel was only on periodically. I told him to change the sets, get Nigel on. I would even get Big Andy back, but I told you Big Andy was just a gatekeeper when he went on the BBC and slammed GB News. That Andy Neil, although he's a brilliant journalist, I've got absolutely no doubt about his journalistic skills, and he did some very good things in the Alex Salmond trial as well. I think you should give him credit where credit is due. It's just a gatekeeper for the establishment, same with Kirsty Wark.
I'm just going to get out of the way and we'll give you a shot. Nigel, this is a boat full of people from Iraq and Iran.
Yeah, 22 on board. There are 2 women. There's a child, very cold child. We have, the child was a bit shivery. We've thrown a blanket into the kid. All the men wanted was cigarettes off me, but that's okay. And we've called Border Force, Coast Guard, and at the time we called, or we were here, they had no assets to send. Why? There are multiple incidents as we speak off Dungeness. Everything's busy. But we have said to them, we do think you should get here quickly because there is a kid who's very, very cold. And it highlights through the winter just how dangerous this is going to be. And once again today, many hundreds will cross the English Channel.
So it's been done deliberately by...
Liebe Freunde in London und in Großbritannien, kommt jetzt bitte zur Besinnung.
Let's see what this character's saying. Dear friends in London and in Great Britain, please come to your senses. We have reached clear agreement after laborious negotiations. Don't forget, the even under Boris, he's trying to keep us sort of aligned to the globalist agenda. The globalist agenda, like the mafia, is not going to just die. The globalist agenda is an ongoing process. Although Brexit won the battle, the reason for the mass immigration is A, to reduce workers' costs, and B, to actually liquidate the actual underlying people who actually stay here, the ones that people like in Scotland would recognise themselves as Scots. So we have reached clear agreements and laborious negotiations which took a long time. I don't care.
Die sehr lange gedauert haben.
For us, the Northern Ireland Protocol is of essential importance. Now, also, the bridge or tunnel, bridge or tunnel from Stranraer to Northern Ireland has been shelved. But I actually think that was actually a really good point, but they didn't give clear reasons why. The tunnel, the bridge, 100-mile-an-hour winds, stupid, and also the munitions that they dumped there, God knows why they dumped it between Scotland and Northern Ireland. I'm sure they could have dumped it in other places. That they're still floating about there. So it wasn't explained by the person that looked at why there wasn't a tunnel, multiple tunnels set up, road and rail tunnels, potentially cycling tunnels between Northern Ireland and Scotland. It wasn't explained why this was rejected. Was it cause? Was it not doable? Wasn't explained. But that would have been great for not just Northern Ireland, but people in the Republic as well.
Klare Verabredungen getroffen. Und für uns ist das Nordirland-Protokoll von
its substance must be safeguarded. This is important. Is it? Aye, okay.
Essentieller Bedeutung. Es muss gesichert werden in der Substanz. Ich kann nur noch.
And I can only appeal once again to the United Kingdom. What we should be doing is getting Article 16 and doing Article 16 and just having a clean break with the EU. That's what should be happening.
Einmal in Richtung Großbritannien und London.
And to London to finally live up to the agreements. What we are witnessing here is, sorry, I apologise, there's things in front of that. Here is not a game.
An die britische Regierung appellieren, diesen Vereinbarungen jetzt auch endlich gerecht zu werden. Was wir hier erleben, ist kein Spiel. Es geht um die Interessen.
It's about interests of the people in the UK and the interests of the European Union. I think it's about the interests of the European Union, not the people in the UK, as has been the norm for the undemocratically unelected commissioners who are dictating legislation, the corporatist globalists.
Der Menschen im Vereinigten Königreich.
We want, damn it, to work together as partners and friends. Yeah, that's fine. That's absolutely ideal, but I think we should be doing it from being out with the EU and not still tethered by these things. We should be outside the EU.
Und es geht um die Interessen.
And it was noticeable that dopey Joe Biden thought he was going to come over here and tell us that there should be a world corporation tax so that people couldn't undercut the corporation tax. I totally disagree with that, and that's certainly not something that we should be placating Dopey Joe and his globalist shell friends.
Der Europäischen Union. Wir wollen verdammt nochmal partnerschaftlich und freundschaftlich.
Yeah, Vita.
And the kicker is, we are about to face the biggest confrontation between the Brits and the French for decades.
The Channel.
So Nigel, they were saying that the Nigel making back into politics. People criticise Nigel standing down because he was close to breaking the two-party system. Close. But he did. They say that all politicians' careers end in failure. But Nigel's actually hasn't, because he set out to get us out of the European Union, was brilliant and was successful. The thing, the political decision to stand the people down and let the Conservatives get a thumping majority, and for Boris to do very little as Prime Minister, which he's getting a lot of criticism now, and people are sending in letters to the Conservative Party whip to actually get him to stand down now, whether that's the globalists that are doing that or disgruntled actual Conservatives, we don't know. But there definitely has to be some sort of Conservative. There are Conservatives like John Redwood in the Conservative Party, and John Redwood would actually be quite a good... He's not very charismatic, John, but he was coming across when he was talking to Nigel rather well, because he was smiling. John has always been rather serious, but his actual policies are actually good. He, like Nigel, wants to reduce tax, and he's got a lot of very interesting policies, but he's never been charismatic and came across well. A bit like, who was the guy that was the leader MP, the bacon sandwich? A bit like him, not charismatic. But on policy, John Redwood would be actually a very good leader. But Nigel, the question that I had about Nigel was not when he stood down all the MPs in the south of England. The question was why he left before the next election, just before. That didn't to me seem like a good political decision. And if Nigel's going to come back into politics, he would have to commit his rest of his life to becoming Prime Minister. He would have to say categorically that he's going to commit to actually becoming Prime Minister, and then people would probably get behind him. He would have to spend the rest of his life in politics in a way and actually doing it, and that may actually give people confidence to vote for the party. And he has to bring other people in other parties as well. Nigel was too good pushing other people away who may have had said something that was slightly controversial, which sometimes it didn't prove to be controversial. What's the guy? Who is the guy? David Cushion. David Curtin. So David Curtin's a great guy as well. Using DuckDuckGo, as you can see. David Curtin, really nice guy. I'm sure they worked together to bring in the UKIP again, bring it all back together. There has to be fences mended, and even with Anne-Marie Waters, who was also in the Conservative Party, I don't know why Nigel was pushing. Well, maybe Nigel was just trying to get a more professional party. Tim Rice is a nice enough fellow as well, but he has to bring people in and not push them away. Other people have got different opinions, and by bringing them in, Nigel would have potentially got to 10-20%, and that way he would have started to break the political norms.
Since it's coming before Christmas, we are paying them.
Well, don't forget, Macron is trying to defeat Le Pen. Le Pen is obviously more of a nationalist, and Macron's just a globalist shill, and he's getting people killed just like our globalist shills are getting people killed in France. So the blood's on the globalists' hands. They've allowed these people in through the globalist agenda 2030 and the globalist agenda of open door immigration. And this is what's happening. People are getting killed because of that. So Macron's deliberately picking a fight with the UK. Obviously, it's an election year. He's picking a fight with the UK. He's allowing the people in, getting the boats from France to come over. Our side is picking them up in the middle of the channel, like a taxi service. And then Priti Patel saying, oh, the smuggler gangs, is the Conservative Party that they're doing this. And have done for 40, 50 years.
30 million, another 54 million to stop the migrant boats coming. They are...
Yeah, and I think that 50 million's paying for the actual boats.
Still coming.
Yeah.
I mean, tonight...
Yeah, and Nigel doesn't talk about this. The Conservative Party, the... This is it. The Barcelona process and the Union of the Mediterranean, which is with North Africa, allowing people to just come in. The Barcelona process, and then in turn the Union of the Mediterranean, which was the globalists to move it towards the one world government, the union between the European Union and African Union, and de facto open borders. Started in 1995, signed up by the Conservatives with the Barcelona Euro-Mediterranean Conference. It was organised, so it doesn't matter about the rapes and the murders, mass murders. Even our political class are now having sympathy with the person that's actually trying to mass murder the indigenous population here. Not to mention the fact that the use of mass immigration to ethnically cleanse a country is illegal under international law from the Declaration, the UN Declaration on Genocide, which wee Nippy as well, I'll come on to wee Nippy in a minute, might be actually doing. So the union was organised by the globalists in the European Union, unelected 28 commissioners, to strengthen its relations with countries in the Maghreb and Maghreb region, so basically the near Middle East and North Africa, so basically all the Muslim countries. The partnership laid the foundations for what came to the Union of the Mediterranean, which was to try and bring into the European Union basically the Muslim countries who have got very different attitudes and beliefs. The European Union enlarged, and that's why people are just being allowed to walk in. So that's already been done. So the Conservative Party know this. They're being completely disingenuous. The European Union enlargement of 2014, which then went on to be the refugee declaration in Marrakesh, which was in Morocco, which allowed people to come in to rape and murder us. And then for our MPs to consolidate the family of the guy that tried to blow up a hospital full of women and children. The European Union engagement on 2004 brought two more Mediterranean countries, Cyprus and Malta, into the Union, while adding a total of 10 to the number of member states. The Euro-Mediterranean Partnership today comprises 39 members, 27 of the European Union states, 3 candidate states, Croatia, Macedonia and Turkey, 9 partnerships, Algeria, Egypt, Israel, Jordan, Lebanon, Morocco, Palestine Authority, Syria and Tunisia. That's why there's no wars in these countries, but they're being allowed to come in as refugees. Libya has had to observe status since 1999. So it's up on the internet. This is not a conspiracy theory. The Conservative Party have already signed us up to this. Oh, redacted. I don't know why all your comments were redacted, Teresa. I hate psychologists. Indeed, GP, there's a good, there's job if is to F with your brain. They cannot do a real job. The degree is a copy and paste also. Interestingly. I don't know why all your comments have been redacted, Teresa. Your messages have been redacted as well. Pretty sure Germans do not vote for wheat fart politicians since Adolf. Wheat fart. Nigel is a gatekeeper. Do you think Nigel's a gatekeeper as well? Vote for him and nothing will change. He's a fraud, is he? In it for his fortune, he is self-serving. Well, I don't know if he's self-serving. I have to say, if he's a gatekeeper, then to bring us out of the globalist shill organisation, the European Union, he wasn't very much good at a gatekeeper. That's why I don't see Nigel as a gatekeeper as such, but he does push people away, which is surprising, who are probably on his side and have got similar beliefs. So let's see wee Nippy. Let me just share this with the populace. Push people away, which is surprising, who are probably on his side and have got similar beliefs. So let's see wee Nippy. Let's see wee Nippy. Let me just share this with the populace. Oh, here we go. There's Nippy here. Shush. Push people away, which is surprising, who... Right, that's enough of you. Right, here's Nippy.
Across the world, those seeking refuge. I want to... Right.
So wee Nippy's just a globalist show. Oh, I'm hanging about with my friends down at the UN conference and climate change. It's absolutely freezing in Scotland. If it went up 2 degrees, it would probably be a lot better. But we not commenting in China or India. The fact that 9 billion tonnes are coming from India. Likewise, they didn't even send representation, because they know they're going to continue to bring up more power supplies and from coal, and that India is going to continue as well.
I want to take the opportunity to express my deepest sympathy at the loss of 27 lives in the...
I think it was 31. But this is your fault as well. You're just a globalist show. You're basically a de facto open immigrationist, as well as trying to bring in racist and sexist arguments against the indigenous white men or indigenous Scots men, heterosexual men, because you're an intersectional lesbian postmodernist Marxist feminist. Not produced any kids, allegedly slapping up your girlfriend that you've basically gaslit the Scottish people and said you're in a marriage. You're going to adopt children, are you? Aye.
English Channel yesterday. That was a tragic and shocking loss that will be felt deeply, not just...
Well, it's your fault. If you're actually de facto allowing open immigration, it's de facto your fault.
Here in the UK, but across the world. Those seeking refuge are human beings.
Well, we don't know if they're seeking refuge or they're trying to blow us up now. We don't know this. We do know for a fact that Muslims have killed Chris Donald, tried to blow up Glasgow Airport, apparently done mass rapes on children who were within your care, which you've tried to cover up through the Scottish Police Force that's directly under you. So let's not talk nonsense, eh?
They are driven out of desperation.
Well, we don't know what they're doing. I think they're driven because you've allowed them to take 4-star hotels, accommodation, which they're probably not due to, and not deporting illegal immigrants. So you're de facto, the SNP, the Scottish National Party, fake nationalists, are de facto open immigration party.
To boats crossing the Channel and by a lack of humanitarian alternative routes.
All right, so we're just flying people in now. Ah, right, I see. So you don't care about the Scottish people, which you've got the highest number of drug and alcohol deaths in Europe. So you're actually, by your daft policies, killing off your own population and doing population replacement, which means that you could be up on charges under the declaration of genocide from the UN's terminology. You do realise this, Nippy? Maybe it's just as well you try and stay in because you could be up in charges.
I believe that it is important that these issues are addressed.
Yeah, you're just a globalist show. You're just saying what the globalist show's probably getting puppeteered by Dopey Joe.
And they are addressed with the needs of human
I'm not sure if this lady's another lesbian.
Beings in mind. We should be working together to ensure that those seeking refuge...
Yeah, but if they're not seeking refugees, if they're illegal immigrants, do they get deported to the country of origin? Or are you an open immigration party? And if you're an open immigration party, was that in your manifesto? it's not just your country. We all want a referendum on what is actually happening here. It's not just your country to give away assets and give away things that you decided. I think we all have a stake in it, so we all should have a referendum on what is actually happening, because we know that you're gaslighting, because you're a globalist shill, just like Bojo, you're gaslighting the Scottish and British people.
Get protection from exploitation, not punishment or criminalisation.
Yeah, what you're doing is using mass immigration to ethnically cleanse your own population. So that's what you're doing, Nippy.
They need rescue, not diversion back into treacherous waters.
No, what they need to do is you stop providing facilities for them to actually come. It's the pull factor from the globalist shills, fake nationalist party. As we've already seen on the Guerilla TV channel, that wee Nippy's already said, I'm the furthest thing from what you perceive as a nationalist party that we could do. And she said, why don't you change your name? Why don't you change your name? Because you're obviously gaslighting. You're a fake nationalist. You're obviously gaslighting the Scottish population. You're just a globalist shill. As a postmodernist, feminist, feminazi, intersectional Marxist, and you're obviously an authoritarian. You've locked us in the house for 2 weeks to flatten the curve. 2 years later, we're still locked in the houses, and you're trying to prevent people who I've had the COVID. I didn't go to hospital. I've not been vaccinated. I've had COVID. It was a doddle. It was no problem for me. I've got the antibodies. Why would I need to get vaccinated? My antibodies are probably stronger than the vaccination. And I've got to take a third and fourth vaccination. Oh, get stuffed.
Scottish ministers have repeatedly called for a much more humane approach to asylum, and we will continue.
Yeah, and what the political speak there is, we're going to continue to use mass immigration to ethnically cleanse the indigenous population, while we are actually getting with our own policies, the highest number of drug and alcohol deaths that have ever been in Scotland. That's wee Nippy's nationalism for you.
Continue to do so in the wake of this dreadful tragedy.
Yeah, so you're obviously getting gaslit there again, aren't you? That's it. Oh, there you go, Ray. Thanks very much, mate. I appreciate that. That's very kind of you. I only got my first super chat the other day there, and so I really appreciate it. Just so you know, the YouTube take probably about 40%, I would think, of the chat. So if you want to, I'll put up I think the links for my PayPal are in the description, but if you want to do it this way, it's easier for you. It's no problem either, but thanks very much. I appreciate it. I'm going to spend a lot of money. I have spent a lot of money, but I'm going to spend even more money on even perfecting this to make the whole situation even better. But thanks very much, Ray. Let me just read out your Nigel is in for his fortune. Budgie bugger. I think that's great. I'm not sure if Nigel is. I find it strange if he's a gatekeeper. I think he does gatekeep to a certain extent, but if he's a gatekeeper, I don't think he would have pulled us out and spent 25 years getting us out of the European Union. And he has done more. There was a lot of other people in the background who didn't get as high profile as Nigel, but Nigel certainly was the person who made the speeches and got us out, and he has got political gravitas. Unless the one of the parties actually says we're going to start illegal immigrants and people, failed asylum seekers or criminals will be deported, then all of them are de facto open immigration parties, and they should be putting that in their actual manifestos, including the Conservative Party. The rest of them definitely are, and the Conservative Party. The Conservative Party have gaslit us for about 40 years, 50 years on the immigration issues. Let me just get this. Nippy is nuts. Yeah, she's completely barking mad. Absolutely radio rental. I'm absolutely gob. I understand that people. I've not got a problem with people who want unionism or nationalism. And that's not the issue. Nippy's underlying issues is her domestic policies, and she's terrible at it. Absolutely terrible. I need to change the position of this camera. It's very interesting to look at your phone, but Nippy's issues are not the whether she's a nationalist or not. she's gaslit everybody that she's some sort of nationalist, and then she's on telling that she's not a nationalist. Well, make up your mind. If you're not in a nationalist party, change your name. Change your name to the intersectional, feminist, globalist, shill, postmodernist Marxist party, and stop gaslighting everybody else. Islamist party. So she probably finds it as acceptable as the rest of the political class for people to blow up hospitals. And then apologise for the person who tried to mass murder the indigenous population. She's more interested in the people who are illegally trying to enter the country than she is about the people here. So let's not talk. She can't even produce any children. So let's not talk nonsense. Nigel was for Brexit and was for the City of London. Well, I think I'll talk to you later about the stock market and things like that in London as well. But there is good points, and we need a change in our dynamics. We closed all our stock markets to allow the money to go down to London, but I think London and the stock market, we need to get a change in relationship. Nippy is nuts, more corrupt by the day, completely corrupt, Ray, completely corrupt. You're completely correct. She is completely corrupt. Davy, Europe for the Europeans. Well, it's going to be Europe for anybody that wants to turn up and kid on they're an asylum seeker. Some people are valid, and you should give people who have got valid claims. But if these people then turn out to be a threat, then they should be kicked out. So what should happen is an asylum seeker should have the right to work and on a works visa, and not being on an asylum visa. So they were allowed to work and allowed to do work there rather than living off the state here. And then if they do criminal acts or do other things, then they should be kicked out. So they have the ability to work here as well, but under a works visa and not an asylum visa. As I said, they could get kicked out. Europe for the Europeans. Well, where else is the Europeans going to go? The Alexander Ocasio-Cortez, who sounds Hispanic to me, is complaining about white supremacy, and they've just taken down one of the statues of one of the presidents in New York, apparently. So Europe, okay, is corrupt. Yeah, you have to understand that the globalist agenda is permeated through all political parties. Not all political parties, but all political parties are represented in parliaments in the UK. Until you stop voting for these parties, only at that point will you get a change of policy. You have to now be more discerning and look for parties who are not globalist shill parties, and that's the issue. So Europe is okay, corrupt. The first brick in the wall gone. Yeah, Obama, Clinton cheated a US election. Of course he did, Ray. Of course he cheated the election. The postal votes is done deliberately to corrupt the political system. It's already been done by Muslims again in down south, and they've been facilitated by our political class. These people have been convicted down in England as well. Peterborough is one borough, but of course, as they're to be corrupted, they actually think they will get away with it. Well, you have to start putting politicians up in charges. We Nippy put Alex Salmon, she's already set the precedence, so we can put Nippy up on a charge for breaking international law and for breaking the UN Compact on genocide. So politicians can go up in these charges. And who is bringing the drugs into our country? Nicola's new population. Well, I mean, we already know that there's drug context. A lot of these people who are in care homes, and they were exploiting the people who were in the care system under the state, under wee Nippy, were being sexually exploited. And they were being raped. They were. I mean, it's in here. I mean, it's all here. This is not a conspiracy theory. And Summers. There it is there. I mean, there's the Sun Express. Let's do it. Ah, there you go. Rotherham-style grooming gangs, wee nippies already. This was 5 years ago under wee nippy, and it's not changed. I'll show you the article from the Sun. I've already gone through this, so I'm not going to cover it again. If you want to look it up, you can either look back in the Guerilla TV and have a look at it. Exclusive groomers victims failed by system as Glasgow exposes Muslim child rape gangs, and I believe these children are in protection. The police haven't even gone along to the Muslim rape gangs to report into Rotherham-style Muslim child rape gangs in Glasgow expose a catalogue of concern from the council and NHS for children who are under protection, who are being mass raped, and I think these children are being given drugs as well. It reveals that sexual abuse of children by grooming gangs is still being encountered as part of a day-to-day practice. So that was in, we'll see this as in April 2015. So if we go back, let's go back again, and there's the Sun 6 years later. These are all the Muslim rape gangs. And these people are not being deported. These people are not being deported. In fact, they're actually being covered up by the Labour Party and the SNP and the Conservative Party. So here we go. There's that's 6 years later, or 5 years later. So that's February, exactly 5 years later. Vile Gang Police Scotland took down large-scale Muslim child rape gangs in Glasgow, but kept it secret. So I'm not going through this again, but it's all documented. It's documented, and these people are gaslighting you like wee Nippy did. He's a good guy as well. These people need to be brought into one party. Nigel has to stop pushing these people away. David Curtin is a very intelligent, nice fellow. So what are we doing? Let's go back. Ended Callum Bruce SNP surgery. So, I mean, all of the people that wee Nippy's brought in. So this was a great thing with Tim Cass. Tim Cass, great guy, nice fella.
If you have some kind of hack journalist with...
So this is a 2-hour interview, and they brought all the heavy hitters in.
I have no idea what we're doing.
Just launch.
We're live now. We're live. People can watch. Michael Malice sitting right next to me. So let me just start with saying, no verdict tonight in the Kyle Rittenhouse trial. I see people comment.
So Kyle Rittenhouse shouldn't be put in trial, but now we've got the American media. I think 6 companies control all of the media, so it's 6 individuals who control, who are the major shareholders who control all of the media, so they're disseminating the information. And the guy that just ran over in a car 6 children, who murdered them, who was a black racist nationalist, BLM postmodern Marxist supporter, who they've now got our footballers, that absolute idiot Gareth Southgate, who is now not wanting to take the knee for people in Qatar, death penalty for homosexuals, apparently up to 3 years for homosexuality, and Sharia law, but his political persuasions are malleable, which he just allows his political persuasions to dance with the wind, or from our political agenda. He shouldn't be saying anything about politics. He's not intellectually capable and doesn't have a greater understanding. He should just play football and keep his mouth shut. And there shouldn't be people kneeling on the stage for a postmodernist, racist, Marxist organisation like BLM.
Commenting like they thought they're doing this big show because they thought the verdict was going to come in and they're going to break. No. He's shaking his head. Here's what happened. Let me tell you the story. So we're coming down to Austin and we're trying to find good people in Austin to talk to, and Blair White.
Hi.
So we were like, Liddy just ran out the door. Okay, well we'll show Blair White in a second.
Joe Rogan is in town, and we have the Michael Malice and Luke Radowski and Tim Pool.
Well, so here's what happened. We asked Blair to come on the show. because we
I like Blair White as well, so I'm certainly not a transphobe. I do see Blair present as a woman, but I still see as a heterosexual man a guy with his penis cut off. And this is the thing, there was a lot of killings by African Americans of transgender people, and these killings may be because the transgender people are not saying I'm transgender and trying to deceive the African American guys, and maybe that's why they're killing them. We have to legislate that transgender people are honest about if they're transgender, because as a heterosexual man, I would just see a transgender woman like Blair as a gay guy with his penis cut off. That's the way I see it. Just like a lesbian would see somebody who's transgender man who's got a penis, or even somebody without a penis as a man. I don't see somebody who has been a man as a woman. That's not some, but I still like Blair White. I don't have any issues. I don't have any issues with him transforming himself into a woman either. But I don't see a gay man having his penis cut off as a woman, even if he's transitioned. So that's my right not to see it that way.
Love Blair. And then Alex was like, hey, are you guys gonna am I coming on at all? And we were like, you know, it'd be really cool if you came on with Blair White, but we got to make sure Blair's cool with it.
Of course, I was totally down. And then it kept escalating. And then it was Michael.
And I'm a subscriber to Blair White, so it's I don't have any issues at all. I'm a subscriber to all these guys.
So then someone leaked it to Michael, and he was like, you're having me on that show, right?
Yeah.
And
It
I
was me.
like,
I
oh,
leaked it to him.
Yeah.
I like how he
I was
works
like-
in that we're all asking.
So I think Michael's an anarcho-capitalist, which is a whole other story, which I might tell you about the Minicus and the anarcho-capitalists and the Scottish Libertarian Party, which I thought was going to be like a libertarian liberal party. But as me being a centrist, as you know, yeah, that is certainly interesting conversations as well.
To come on. Of course we want to come on, Tim. You're great.
But then it's like I'm thinking, oh man, this is huge. Like, what are we gonna do? And so
And then Joe Rogan calls.
Well, hold on.
Oh, you are the worst. Let him tell his story.
Let me tell the story. We had Drew Hernandez here, who's sitting right here. I don't know what camera works for Drew.
I don't know, Lydia. How do I switch this thing?
Lydia, you've got a job to do, Lydia.
We are all here. We are all here, and it's amazing.
So I think Joe Fernandez, nice guy as well, is I think, and I don't want to say this because I don't know for a fact, he's actually, like me, does journalism, and he goes out and actually looks at and talks to people from a journalistic point of view. I think that sounds, not quite sure, I think probably a libertarian as well. He seems like a really nice fellow.
Amazing.
Okay, so
get to work. Get to work, woman.
This is rough.
It's for me.
Oh, I don't want to throw it across all this stuff.
Pass it, Ian.
Give it to Ian.
Pass it along that way.
I want to pass.
We're a disorganized mess.
Thank you, Lou.
Okay, hold on. I warned everyone this would be a cacophony, loud noise. Okay, so hold on. So
No, the way it is, there'll be a lot of people talking.
Drew is here, and I was like, Drew, like, if the verdict comes in, oh, it's Joe Rogan.
There you go.
What up, bro? Thanks for coming, man.
Now Joe is probably a centre-left libertarian, but more towards the sort of Bernie Sanders. I don't even know if I would describe Bernie Sanders as a libertarian, but certainly Joe Rogan seems to like that type of politics. So quite a diverse type of libertarian from right to left. Bunch of individuals, but all I would suggest the thing that's common amongst all of them, that they're all on the libertarian, not the authoritarian part of the spectrum.
Right here. You're now podcasting out of an RV, brother.
How the mighty have fallen.
Right on time.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Look at that beautiful bastard. Right, yeah.
The show is about to begin.
Yeah.
We got Alex Jones.
That's a great thing there. So have a wee look at that. So let's like more stuff. So let's see the absolute nonsense. Let's see Mr. Sarwar.
The answer is simply unacceptable and complacent. Millie May died in 2017, and there was a similar infection in a child 2 months ago that lost their lives. Hiding behind process isn't going to bring people back to life or stop infections right now. So can I remind them?
But what do you call them? I'll come back to that racism stuff in the. Oh, there's my friend Avi Yemeni getting called a Nazi. I mean, by somebody who's Jewish getting called a Nazi. I mean, it's disgusting. Obviously, Avi Yemeni was an inspiration to the Guerilla TV channel. Great to see him on Rebel with Ezra. Ezra was talking to Alex Jones as well. So, 2 inspirations for the Guerilla TV channel.
Hey, how you going, guys? Racist, fascist.
So, just buzzword.
Don't belong here.
If you don't belong here, says to a Jewish guy, don't belong here. That's how inclusive they are.
Represent their viewpoint, they don't want you there. Doesn't matter what color you are, where you come from. If you don't agree with them, you don't belong there.
So where should I go? You said I don't belong here. That's a lot of white privilege to tell a person of color like me I don't belong here.
Everyone is just talking about the country and they're talking about freedom. They're not bringing out race as an issue. The people that were bringing out race as an issue don't want me there, and they don't want you there. They assaulted you and they were intimidating me, and that's just the truth of it.
That just shows you, doesn't it? That's the communist for you, isn't it? So what was actually happening, I don't know if I can get this up. Let me just get Avi's up just now. There's my friend there, good guy. Yes. Here we go. So Avi was getting attacked.
What?
So Antifa and the police were harassing a journalist, just like happens to me in Scotland now as well. The police, not Antifa so far, but and I actually was talking to a guy from Antifa and we're having a good conversation. So I prefer to talk to people who are even in Antifa, which is just anarcho-communist, anarcho-syndicalist. I'll tell you what he says before I talk about Avi. I was out the other night in Glasgow and I bumped into this guy, and the guy said he's in Antifa. And he said that Antifa was like the anarcho-communist, narco-syndicalist. I think that's what he was. Seemed like an intelligent enough young man as well. Potentially a university student. And the Stalinists, which means that Antifa in Scotland that is gone with the libertarian communists and the authoritarian, because Stalin obviously was a part of the authoritarian communists. And these people are making up Antifa. So the extreme left, the people that have killed 100 million people so far, have are joined together. So the authoritarian. So it's not just the anarcho-syndicalists and anarcho-capitalists, communists. Sorry, it's also the Stalinists who are part of Antifa, who are the biggest mass murdering, apart from Islam, the biggest mass murdering political ideology the world has known. That's now in bed with the police, who are breaking up freedom, like that gentleman just said, freedom marches, who are, the police are, and Antifa, rather than the police protecting the journalists by arresting the people who are harassing the journalists, the police are in turn with Antifa harassing the journalists, which means that they're in bed with the political class, the globalists, who are different from the left. The globalists control the Antifa, and they're Antifa and the far left are the globalist bitches basically, and the police then are there to harass the journalists and protect Antifa, who basically use violence to intimidate, to protect the globalists who are the running the show, if that makes sense. So that's basically what's actually happening just now.
An absolutely massive weekend in Melbourne. Hundreds of thousands marched the city streets in the largest protest for freedom Australia has ever seen. Meanwhile, about a kilometre away, a much smaller, angrier counter-protest rallied for, more government mandates, anti-fascism. Who knows? I'm sorry about the smell. Are you guys the 90%?
What's that?
Are you guys the 90%? We're meant to be
90% pizza.
There's the police harassing the journalist from supporting the violent neo-Marxists here. So anti-fascists from a Jewish guy, and the Marxists who have killed 100 million people are getting protected by the police, and the police are harassing the guy that just got assaulted by the Marxist mob. Wow. But they're getting controlled by the globalists. Marxist mob, police harassing the journalist, and rather than arresting the people who were grabbing the mic and using violence against the Jewish guy, the Jewish journalists. Wow. Again, so that's the security guy protecting Avi from the violent guy, and the police are harassing the security guy who is being protected by 4, 5 policemen, 6 policemen, and not being arrested. So they're harassing the security guy that's protected the journalist. I mean, it's just absolutely unbelievable. Rather than arresting the neo-communist who's harassing the Jewish fellow, and they're claiming to be the anti-fascists. Marxists getting protected by the police who are harassing now the security guy who's protected the journalist from the actual violent protester, who is in turn being instructed. Both the police and the anti-fascist are being protected by the global show, where the authoritarianism in Melbourne and horsey-faced Jacinda Ardern is basically being protected by the globalist shows. So there's the police shoving him. So this guy violently attacked this guy, and the police are now shoving the security guy who's protecting the journalist from the Marxist mob who have killed under Marx 100 million people. Wow. Wow. And now let's see if I can get this bit. Go and watch for yourself. Great interview. Here's the white supremacists.
Look at me, clearly.
White supremacy on the streets of Melbourne. We need a march with the anti-fascists.
Yeah, I heard there's another protest around the corner against the far right and calling us
white supremacists.
Well, I'm the whitest racist supremacist right here, right? Look at me. Clearly, I'm racist.
Seems like a nice fella as well. So, yeah, quite incredible. Quite incredible, isn't it? I mean, really, what are you guys saying? Hope you're enjoying yourselves here. Like Stammer or further left than Bojo. I mean, Stammer, actually, probably Sarwar is more right than some of the Conservative Party, the Scottish Conservatives. It's quite incredible. Further to right, Sarwar actually, if you take away the fact he's an Islamofascist, it could be quite relative company. So, Davey, you like Tim Cass, Liberal, no hope. Tim Cass, I think, is to the left, and he's moved slightly. I think Joe Rogan and Tim Cass are moving slightly. It's not, and this is the thing. Budgie bugger. The fact is that this is not a left-right thing, or even a liberal left thing. This is an authoritarian versus libertarian thing. This is a top-down thing, political thing. This is not people who are left or right. This is about libertarianism versus authoritarianism, and the globalists are authoritarians. No valid claim on the land for our people. Yeah, no, it's what you're quite right. And what this is actually happening is that the globalists are giving away the country through the use of mass immigration, open door immigration. The globalists are going over and bombing other countries and then allowing people to come into ours. Joe Biden, who's obviously a globalist shill, went over and pulled all the troops out of Afghanistan. Afghanistan was quite settled at this point, and it was progressive. Now people are starving, are going to be starving, because of the policies from the Afghanis and the holding of money, and there's a number of things that are happening that are going to negatively affect the average man and woman in Afghanistan, and an increasingly authoritarian Islamist government under the Taliban. So yeah, but I do agree. Who is Tim Cass Budgie? I would watch. I would go and watch that. I think it's about libertarianism and not left or right. And I would say Tim Cass is a left wing libertarian, whereas I'm right of centre libertarian, or centre right. I should say libertarian. But as I said, it's more about the libertarianism than and being anti-globalist. The empowerment of the individual, not the state. That's what we want, which is libertarianism. Let's see what's happening here. So let's go back to this. So here we go. White Britons to become a minority. So this is in the Telegraph. White Britons will become a minority. So this has been deliberately done. So we never asked, never put in our any of the manifestos for the different political parties, but they've decided to give away the country. White Britons will become a minority by 2066, says Professor. White Britons will become a minority by 2066, an Oxford professor has claimed. This is in the Telegraph by Rosa Silverman. A large influx, which has been deliberately done, of immigrants has given the UK the fastest rising percentage of ethnic minority and foreign-born residents of any Western nation, David Coleman, which has been done by the Conservative Party. Was not giving me any more information, was it? Oh, you need to subscribe. David Coleman's report. So I mean, it's all back to the same. The Conservative Party have done this, and basically the Conservative Party are trying to ethnic, and the Scottish National Party are doing this deliberately as an ethnic cleansing of our own country. So we become an ethnic minority in our own country. I might not want to be that. I might not want that to happen. So who would have thought Tommy Robinson was and has been proven right yet again? So this is an ITV News. Manchester Arena inquiry. Dibsby Mosque, which Tommy Robinson had gone up and actually spoke about. Dibsby Mosque failed to prevent radicalisation. There is no radicalisation. The Quran is taught literally, and it's non-changing to Muslims. There is no radicalisation. The problem is Islam. It's not radicalisation. It's just the literal interpretation of Islam, and the Islamisation deliberately done by the political class of our country, regardless of the consequences to our own indigenous population. Wee Nippy's not going to be here long enough, is she? She's going to be dead in a few years, and she's not produced any kids, so she's not got any long-term stake in the country. The family of the Manchester Arena victims say Dibsby Mosque failed to prevent radicalisation, along with some of its congregation before the attack. It comes as former Imam Mohammed El Sati said threats were made against his life, and he was dismissed from his post in 2020 after raising concerns about extremist groups meeting in the mosque. Right, I see. So it's other Muslims who are obviously at risk as well. The inquiry into the May 2017 terror attacks that killed 22 people, I think this was in the Ariana Grande concert, and injured hundreds, was told that the sermon also prompted a petition calling for his dismissal, with signatures including the bombers brothers Hassim and Ismail. Oh, really? Oh, well, that's great.
I think he was with Hashim, and he gave me a hateful look. So he looked at me with hate. He showed me that he didn't like me, basically. But there was another encounter before that, where he and I think Hashim were sat very close to me, to the pulpit, on Friday. And again, he didn't like me. Clearly from his face, he was not happy with me.
Former Imam told the inquiry that the bomber, Salman al-Abedi, gave him hateful looks after a sermon he gave opposing ISIS. All right, okay. He said an insightful Facebook message by al-Abedi's father, Ramadan, was also posted, in which he urged worshippers to isolate him to avoid the mosque being closed by the UK government. Mohammed Sati received the following message from a man believed to be Salman al-Abedi's father. The worshippers in the mosque must seek to isolate this man so that events do not develop and what is not rewarding happens and the mosque is closed by the British government. In Arabic, the petition was also launched against him, saying his sermon had wrongly attacked the Boys revolutionaries and accused them of terrorism and extremism. The brother of the Manchester bomber Ismail al-Abedi and Hassim al-Abedi have both signed it, giving evidence on Wednesday, 24th of November. Mr. Al-Sati said the mosque trustees admonished him from talking about politics and warning him threats had been made to harm him if he returned to the pulpit. So what's the police doing in all this? Where the police? The police just get their thumb up their ass. What's actually happening with the police? Police don't seem like they're doing their job. He said, which is probably true. They're probably not doing the job because they're being controlled by the globalists. It was speaking about the sanctity of human life, so I didn't mention political groups. I'm not affiliated with any political party. I was just basically combating terrorism and extremism. He said that the name IS, Al-Qaeda, and also Lebanese-based Islamist militia group Ansar al-Sharia. So obviously Sharia is the Muslim law, and the Surah Council of Benzine revolutionaries, who he referred to as dogs of hellfire. Mr. El-Sati said, as far as he knew, the majority of Libyans who attended the mosque, also known as the Manchester Islamic Centre, was anti-Colonel Gaddafi and late deposed leader. Well, okay, they were anti-Gaddafi, who was a secular leader that we were partly responsible for deposing, and now, to improve that, we've now got a bunch of potential Islamists in Libya. I mean, really. And some obviously foreign-led. He also sympathisers of terrorist group in Benzine, where among the congregation, he told the inquiry he raised concerns about regular secret meetings of Libyans supporting such extremist organisations held at the mosque throughout 2015 and 2016. He said were sanctioned by the trustees, and these are all the kids and women, predominantly women, funnily enough, who are all dead. Died, the 22 people that died. I think just a moment to think about what the globalist shills are actually doing to the country. And that's right, the Labour Party are praising the bombers who tried to kill or blow up a hospital full of children and women, and yet they're apologising to the family of the person that tried to murder innocent children, women and children. That's the Labour Party for you. The statement from the families of the Manchester Arena attack victims condemned al-Sati's actions and said, "We find it deeply troubling that his efforts were rubbished by the leadership of the mosque, both at a time this week when it comes to combating terrorism and terrorist ideologies." Well, Islam is a terrorist ideology. It's always been a terrorist ideology. So the fact that you can't actually look intrinsically at what Islam actually is, and you try and pass it all off, because what they do is the media covers up for the globalists. They don't care if you're getting murdered, and they'll just try and pass it off because they're actually involved in it. The media class covering up for the open borders of the political class. Probably all part of the Bilderberg group. The media, so many titles are controlled under Reach PLC. Who owns Reach PLC? I think that's what we need to find out. We need to find out who the people are that are controlling the media. And it's not the media holding the politicians to account. It's now the media in bed with the account. And as we saw with Avi Yemeni, Avi Yemeni is getting harassed, getting called a Nazi by people in a Jewish guy, a Jewish journalist, getting called a Nazi by a sitting politician. So I'm going to play this.
The entire Parliament were up in arms over the fact that a small minority within the freedom movement have...
I don't agree with Daniel Andrews' pandemic bill. So all of these global shills are doing exactly the same thing. It's overarching and has rightly been condemned by placards depicting the Premier as in a Nazi uniform. Because obviously they're in the pocket of Big Pharma. Well, now people are going on for a fourth booster. I don't know how many boosters and other shots you're going to stick in your body. You don't even know what's in them. And how many, and they're obviously not working because people are still getting COVID even after having two boosters. They're still getting COVID and dying. Uniform is offensive and wrong. It shows a lack of understanding of history and it fuels hatred. It's dangerous and has no place in the public debate. Well, if you are mandating medical procedures by the state, then it's certainly authoritarian, if not National Socialist.
Labelled Dan as, or compared him to Hitler, they're up in arms over that. But when a member of Parliament who is siding with the government declares on the floor of Parliament a Jewish reporter, one of the only Jewish reporters in the state, as a Nazi because he doesn't like his political view.
Now, I've talked to Avi about him getting called a Nazi and how absolutely ironic, what basically I was just pointing out here about him getting called a Nazi, and I made light of the subject, but I mean, it's disgusting that people are calling somebody who's Jewish. I mean, people rightly pointed that George Soros collaborated with the Nazis, but I think if you were Jewish and you were in that situation, and I'm not simping for George Soros in the slightest. I think George Soros is a major part of the problems that are happening in the West, but not all Jews are the same, and this is the collective punishment. I think Avi is a libertarian. I'd love to see Avi do his political compass test, because I think he is genuinely a libertarian and against authoritarianism. And but I mean, it's pretty disgusting calling somebody who is Jewish a Nazi, especially on the background of it all.
Nobody says a word.
I saw a known neo-Nazi reporter out there with his neo-Nazi mate.
So the political class are protecting the violent Antifa neo-communist mobs, whether they be Stalinist or an authoritarian Stalinist or anarcho-communist or syndicalists who have killed 100 million people, but yet calling somebody who like Avi, who I think's not a Nazi but a libertarian, a Nazi, and he's Jewish, and this is coming from people in Parliament. It's just absolutely disgusting.
And that's who I spoke to her about.
A neo-Nazi reporter with his mate, which is referring to obviously my security guard,
who's getting harassed by the neo-communist mob, attacked, where the police are actually then attacking the journalist as well. Obviously on the say-so of the people like this clown, whoever this idiot is. What's this idiot's name? Andy Medic, who, I don't know what he is. He looks like a right soy boy, this character.
Challenge him to step outside of Parliament.
So last night, brave Andy Merrick abused his parliamentary privilege, calling me a neo-Nazi reporter. Now, I don't think, I think Avi Yemeni is a libertarian. I don't think he's a neo-Nazi while debating the bill. This is the guy, the same guy who has been crying victim over verbal abuse. I think he was being attacked, to be brutally honest, while your police were then pushing and shoving him rather than arresting the people who attacked him. So I think it's doubly, and he's calling them, So, yeah. And victorial abuse, which is cowardly, which is right, yeah. Come outside and say that so I can introduce you to my legal team.
And say it out here where parliamentary privilege doesn't protect him from defamation. But I doubt he's going to do that. Do you find it weird that Mr. Anti-Racism and Fascism is abusing his parliamentary privilege to label a Jewish reporter as a neo-Nazi?
I do, especially knowing that I've seen you without your top on, and so I've actually seen your tattoos. So I know that you're not. I'm actually...
Let's just clarify for the audience, we're talking about my arm.
Yeah.
We're not talking about me naked, we're talking about my arm.
No. Yeah, I was taken aback a bit, Avi, because obviously I've met you a few times, we've had these conversations, and I know that you're not a neo-Nazi. That's such an...
Now, I had a good laugh with Avi with regards to him getting called a Nazi, but I think it's highly disgusting. And he's getting called a Nazi being Jewish as well. I mean, I think that's really disgusting.
Salt. You know, I've just had a girl.
He's a lovely fellow as well. A lovely fellow and an inspiration for the Guerilla TV channel. He's done some great journalism and really held the powers that be to account.
Really upset. She said, somebody called me a Nazi today. And I said, well, don't worry about it. You're not a Nazi. And she said, no, it really hurt me because I'm Serbian. And you know what the Nazis did to us? I mean, sometimes these people need to stop and think a little bit about people's histories.
A known neo-Nazi reporter.
Andy Medic is someone who likes to claim like he's anti-fascist, anti-racism.
That he promotes kindness, but I don't really think that's all that kind, just to make up nonsense and smear people with lies. I mean, if he was...
Paul Hutchins, there you go. He's like Paul Hutchins, the so-called journalist for the Daily Record, the failing Daily Record.
A really nice person, he'd actually come down and just talk to us, wouldn't he?
Now that I'm with him, I will be called
another neo-Nazi.
more now, 100% neo-Nazis.
100%. I know we're laughing, but it's quite awful, isn't it, that a African and a Jew on the steps of Parliament have to resort to laughing at the fact that they're being called Nazis, because the anti-medics of society have thrown that term around so much that it's lost all meaning. But there have been developments in the story that I think are important to note here. Since last week, when Mr. Medic stood up in Parliament to abuse his parliamentary privilege to call me a Nazi, Mr. Medic made a statement online to what we now know as a fake attack on his trans daughter. Yep, once again, the entire country from the Prime Minister down immediately rushed to Mr. Medic's defence and condemned the violence. But I want to draw your attention to the last sentence of Mr. Medic's statement in that fake attack. I do also ask that people understand and respect the fact that comments, insults, intimidation...
Well, apparently I've been called all sorts of insults and slander and libel by the Daily Record, and the legal class can't get me into court. So obviously that's another issue, isn't it?
and incitement can all have very real and absolutely devastating consequences. Only a few days after Mr. Medic stood up in Parliament to abuse his parliamentary privilege to call me a Nazi, I was attacked on the street by people
shouldn't be doing that as well.
Who self-proclaim themselves as Nazi hunters,
and then the police are telling the journalist to go, and then we've got another guy here.
Fascists. So yes, I would say to Mr. Medic.
So there's another guy assaulting him there that's coming in from the side. Where is it?
So yes.
So there's this guy here. So why are these guys being allowed to have masks on to protect their ID, yet the police are harassing the journalist? I would have thought that the police's job should be to actually get the guys who are attacking the journalist. But no. The police are attacking the journalists who are being attacked by, and the police are protecting the blacked out guy who is attacking, who looks white, the Jewish journalist.
I would say to Mr. Medic, heed that warning. Listen to yourself and remember your words can have absolutely devastating consequences.
So him getting called a Nazi and he's getting attacked by the press. I told Avi he should do his political compass test and find out, because I think he's definitely a libertarian. I was a bit surprised when I saw, what's his face? Mr. Shapiro being in the libertarian right. I actually thought he was going to come out as a conservative, but it was very interesting. Your political compass test can tell you a lot about where you stand in the political spectrum. And don't forget the Nazis were socialists.
Those who rush to Mr. Medic's side, why are you so quiet now? To all of you that have stood up and condemned violence against journalists, why are you so silent now?
Because we have a two-tier system. And if you don't fit into the globalist agenda, then the police are not there to back you up. The police are there to silence you, along with the fascist and the anti-fascist movement, the neo-Marxists, who are basically the state's, the globalist bitches now. Not that they're rebelling against the state. The police are protecting the anti-fascists against journalists, who in turn are being protected by the political class. Antifa and the left are the globalist bitches.
Josh Frydenberg, that every time somebody labels Daniel Andrews a Nazi, you invoke your Jewish heritage to condemn that comparison. But not once have you stood up to the Andy Medics and the Greens of this world in our parliament to condemn them for throwing that term around and calling people from your own community neo-Nazis.
Yeah, I don't think he is a neo-Nazi, Avi, to be brutally honest. But again, always interesting. Let's see what you guys are saying. You saying anything? I like that Aussie guy. Yeah, he's good. Danny is good. Avi reporting for Rebel Media. Yeah, I've been watching Avi before he was with Rebel Media. He's always done great stuff. He was an inspiration for me as well. I probably speak to the political class at that slightly higher level, but Avi was almost like a street reporter, and I do street reports and give people opportunity to say what they've got to say as well. Like Stammer or far left like BJ by Boris Johnson. Who is further left? Is Stammer further left than Boris Johnson? You've got to remember Stammer was in the Bilderberg group with Jeffrey Epstein. So you have to understand that Jeffrey Epstein and Stammer were together, and we already know that and Ghislaine Maxwell is now in court on the charges of trafficking children to the rich and powerful, and that Stammer was in the same Bilderberg group with Jeffrey Epstein. So we don't know if he's been compromised. We don't know what the script is. But this is the situation we find ourselves in. Am I still live here? Let's just check if I'm still here. Charges of trafficking. Oh, I'm still here. That's good. So, let's go back to this. What else have we got of interest? BBC trying to analyse Nicola Sturgeon. So, let's think about what Boris Johnson and Nicola Sturgeon. So, Nicola Sturgeon wants independence from Westminster, but being controlled by 20 unelected commissioners in Brussels. Which isn't nationalism, she just means she's a globalist shell. And but let's look at the pandemic. You can look at any things that Nicola Sturgeon's done. Nicola Sturgeon, woke Boris Johnson, woke Nicola Sturgeon have done exactly the same thing. Both pro-open immigration, both allowing people to come here willy-nilly, both taking the woke agenda, putting it in, so is America. All of these people are doing exactly the same thing. It's almost like Independence Day when the ships were doing, and they're putting the people in place to carry out this woke agenda and 2030 agenda at a global level. All of these people are doing exactly the same thing. They're controlled by a media that's controlled by a very few individuals and don't like anybody else coming into the media space to actually spoil it. It says that council's order to take lone children opt-in system axed after 100 authorities failed to join the scheme. What's dancing?
It's been a little while since I've been back from Glasgow, but the ripples of this event continue to percolate. One organisation which claims to counter online extremism and disinformation calls itself the Institute for Strategic Dialogue. It produced a report into those it claimed were attacking efforts to curb climate change during the summit.
So, I mean, that's probably a globalist shell body, probably getting funded by the Conservative Party. And so the Conservative Party are funding woke and which is postmodernist Marxist, racist Marxist agendas, and the so-called Conservative Party, I don't know if they're conserving Marxism or not, are actually funding these bodies.
Saying, thematically, the messaging we observed usually presented the summit as one of the following: useless, a failure, hypocritical, or harmful to the economy.
Well, yeah, I was just listening to the fact that the Chinese weren't there, largest polluters by a country mile. A failure. Well, I don't know if it was a complete failure, but I don't know. Even if Scotland Britain had zero carbon emissions, then I don't know if it's going to progress. I know that what do you call him? Elon Musk is going to get a lot richer from his Tesla cars. He's obviously hit the nail on the head there again.
That's right. If your reporting or analysis of COP26 suggested that the summit may have been a useless or a failure, if you had the temerity to suggest that leaders flying in on private jets and riding in gas-guzzling convoys may have been a tad hypocritical, or even that some measures may be economically harmful, you're deemed as a climate skeptic. No matter how much you...
But the climate changes all the time. So the whole premise of this is nonsense for a kick-off, because the temperature, we had an ice age where the UK 25,000 years ago was under a mile of ice. And there's been archaeological digs that in the United States, because apparently not just from Serbia and how the people get in from Mongolia and I don't know if it was northern China, but certainly Mongolia and that sort of basis, they went right down into America and South America. Some Europeans came through the ice bridge across which was covered in ice, Iceland, Greenland, and into America that way. They used to fish along the mile of ice that was across the sea as well. So the climate's changing all the time. If Greta Thunberg was available then, she could have had a wee doomsday cult and saying, oh, look, all this ice melting, it's melting, but it's obviously been changing for a long period of time. And if they want to do something practical, get them to go out and plant a tree. David Ballantyne, plant a tree day.
We may say that the cause of anthropogenic climate change is a serious threat. No matter if you say that it's a threat that should be tackled, if you criticise the untouchable wonder of COP, you revoke your right to an opinion, at least in the eyes of the Institute for Strategic Dialogue. Unless, of course, your name's Greta. Yes, that's right. Far more critical of COP than I ever was, Greta Thunberg declared the summit a failure on the 5th of November when it's...
Oh, well, that's good. It danced about from an 18-year-old.
Still had over a week to go. She declared it a failure after historic...
because Chinese weren't there.
...agreements on protecting forests and powering past coal were reached. She declared it as a failure as 90% of the global economy were signing up to commit to net zero by the middle of this century.
Now, don't forget the CO2 emissions are down 11% globally just now. Because of the 2 years we've been locked in our house. So it's already been, we've already seen a decline in the CO2 emissions.
The self-described anti-extremism think tank criticise her for falling foul of one of their markers of, quote, actively and explicitly attacking efforts to curb climate change. No. Greta gets a free pass, despite her doom and gloom anti-COP activism. It's hard to think of a less motivating argument than claiming that somehow even 90% of the global economy signing up to net zero is an outright failure. That, despite the unprecedented action, the planet is effectively doomed anyway, that there is no hope. This is the kind of language that is not only divorced from reality, but promotes a feeling of helplessness. If COP and all this effort really is futile and a failure, if the Industrial Revolution really was one big doomsday machine, if we really are all heading for annihilation in short order anyway, then what's the point in even trying to turn things around?
I have to say, I think Tom's great. I don't, obviously, he's simping for the Conservative Party, might be of an issue, but as a presenter, he's terrific. And wee Nippy ignored them as well. Oh, let's see what the grooming gangs are. The Muslim child rape gangs that are being ignored by the Conservative Party and the Labour Party.
Your thoughts on what's been happening in Hull?
It makes me very angry personally that we keep going round and round this same rabbit hole. But on behalf of the victims who are caught up in this case again, it fills me with despair, really, that they need to come to an organisation like the Maggie Oliver Foundation in order to be supported in their battle to be heard. We were approached well over a year ago, initially by one of the victims in this case. We're now aware of 7. And they have been seeing this case on the verge of being dropped for a while. But we've supported them and we've tried to get them their voices.
So what we need is a polygraph test for both the accused and the accuser, because if the accuser is lying, they should go to jail. So if the accuser, we need to have polygraph tests that will help out in finding out who's telling the truth, and somebody should go to jail. So either the accused or the accuser should go to jail. If somebody's accusing somebody of sexual assault or false allegations, they should definitely go to jail.
It's heard by Humberside Police without
falsely. Now, it sounds like there's a lot of corroboration from multiple people here, and it's still not been taken into consideration because obviously it goes back to the globalist agenda, the fact that they're letting Muslim, obviously Prophet Muhammad was a sexual slave trader, a rapist, a raper of children, and the people who follow a person who advocated sex slavery and having sex with children, having sex with your cousin, all in the Quran and the Hadith, the followers of this are now raping non-Muslims, and it's been facilitated by our political class.
Without any joy, we approached Operation Hydrant, but we've seen lots of evidence, and I believe that other independent experts have now viewed the evidence. We feel that there's a lot of corroboration for these victims. They were children, very, very young children, and when the authorities are dismissing them and fobbing them off, it's a sadly familiar story to me, Colin. Even with Op Augusta, which I worked on in 2005, for 15 years, Greater Manchester.
And don't forget the person, the Kyle Rittenhouse shot initially, who was trying to wrestle the gun away from him when he was trying to run away, was a child rapist as well, funnily enough.
He's insisted that there was...
The guy that just mowed down, which is getting covered up by the media, 6 children, the black racist, was anti-white racist, has also been covered up, was also a convicted sex offender.
There's no evidence of abuse of those children. It took 15 years and a lot of energy and a lot of fighting to get GMP to be forced to reopen that case. And, you know, these are cases that we see time and time again. Even right now, we've got, you know, the MP for Keighley, Robbie Moore. He's trying to get cases in and around Keighley looked at. We've got all the publicity in the media about Rotherham. You know, they are very, I accept that they are very difficult cases to investigate. But when you consider that there are less than 2% of cases of rape again or abuse against women and girls, that even reported cases that make it to court, you have to question whether the authorities are only taking the absolutely easiest cases forward.
So if we brought in polygraph tests for men and women, that or for men and women, but for the prosecuted and the prosecutor, then we'll be able to do that. So a survivor of the Islamic State has been blocked from speaking in Canada. Obviously, Turdo is worse than useless. School in case her book fosters a phobia against a child rapist death cult. Obviously, not her being abused or being a survivor. School pools event for former Islamic State sex slave. Remember, I called it a child rapist death cult. So sex slavery was okay with the Prophet Muhammad. So obviously, sex slavery in the Islamic State is also okay. We're also seeing the same thing, non-Muslim children being raped here. We're now allowing mass immigration, people just walking in. We don't know who these people are, getting put up in 4-star hotels, and by Priti Patel, who's saying that it's white people that are raping these children, not Muslims, and that this is all being covered up by the political establishment, and you guys are still voting for them. The race and social justice reporter for ABC7 interviews. Remember, I told you 6 people control all the media in America, academics who say using the word looting is racist against black and brown people. So stealing other people's stuff is racist against, I don't know what the word looting is. Luxury stores were looted last week by organised mobs. Oh, there's a friend. Davy Sarhar claims that Nicola Sturgeon should have extended vaccine passports. I don't know who this clown is, but I would suggest she needs to go. A pandemic that's 99.9% survivable, and Diva Saradar, whatever, is telling wee Nippy that she needs to extend lockdowns. I don't think she needs to extend lockdowns. Yet at the same time, all these unvaxxed, God knows where they're from, what they're carrying, are allowed to just walk in illegally into the UK. Right, I see. And dying in the process. Because obviously that there's nothing happening. So I've not actually listened to this, so I'm dying. She is a real clown, this one.
Copernicus, the European Space Agency and the...
This is university politics being put into Parliament.
EU have the Copernicus, I'm probably pronouncing it wrong, programme. Copernicus. I didn't do classics like our Prime Minister, but there we go. The Europe...
Yeah.
Fulfil the mandate I've been given to see to govern as First Minister for this term.
Useless, absolutely useless. Another 5 years of mismanagement, disastrous policies, incompetence. Great.
Of the Scottish Parliament, I've set out my intentions. Look, and beyond that, well, look, you know, I'm not sure if you're.
I bet she joins the Global Shill organisation.
Trying to get some kind of echo of a former Prime Minister here. Let me just answer this question straight, because It's actually quite interesting, and I almost take the wishful thinking of my opponents on this.
I love a challenge. I nearly got you last time.
Some kind of, I'm sure, unintended compliment, but compliment nevertheless.
It's not a compliment. The people want you to go because you're useless. You're absolutely useless. You couldn't. You're the worst First Minister we've had, and that's saying something. I don't think there were. Maybe, certainly Salmond and probably McCall were probably first and second, but I mean the rest of them are decidedly average as well. But you're head and shoulders the worst. I thought Labour was incompetent, but I think we're just bouncing about left-wing politics. I think it's left-wing politics that's incompetent.
It's almost as if my opponents have concluded they can't beat me or remove me from office themselves.
Oh, I think I wouldn't challenge, because honestly, you could be God. Trust me.
So they're kind of crossing their fingers and hoping that I'll remove myself from office. But
I think if you had any honour or decency, you would remove yourself.
But they're going to be really disappointed because I'm going to be round a lot longer. And given how many Tory and Labour
we shall see
leaders have come and gone in my time as First Minister, perhaps a lot longer than them. And
what are you going to do if you lose the next referendum? So you've already stated that you want to bring in the referendum for 2013, which he might not be there that much longer. Actually was clever. He would actually probably just let you do. And the fact is that if you lost that referendum, then you would probably have to go. And not only that, but the nationalist cause, which you've already stated you're not really a nationalist, would then be defeated for literally a generation. It would take probably about 50 years, because you've had 2 referendums and would have lost both on the basis of the polling figures. There's not a clear majority just now. In fact, there's only a large minority. It's not far off where it was. That people are not. If people don't vote for your second referendum, that will be you for the high jump. And the SNP as a nationalist cause will be lost. The people voting for you would have to go to another nationalist party, because the SNP have lost twice, to actually probably get another referendum, because you did say it was once in a lifetime, and now you're saying it's every whatever time you actually won, but you lose the second one, you're not getting a third one probably for about 50 years. So then we have to look at your terrible mismanagement of the Scottish economy, and God knows what the characters are doing, MPs, the SNP are doing down in Westminster.
A lot longer than they might wish me to be. I was elected 7 months ago, having asked people in Scotland to put their trust in me for a 5-year term as First Minister. They gave me that trust, they re-elected me, we face serious times as a country, and I intend to fulfil that mandate.
I mean, you've been an absolute disaster.
Serve the full 5 terms.
I intend to fulfil that mandate.
What mandate's that? More daft policies. It's like if there was an idiot who decided to do a manifesto, that would be the SNP's manifesto. The West occupied Afghanistan for 20 years, and if it had continued to occupy Afghanistan, we might not be in this situation where the people are getting shot in the head, women are getting shot in the head, people were left behind by Joe Biden just pulling out like the dottery old idiot they is. The state it built fell in days. The Taliban is back in power. Great. Oh, sure. The Islamist state is surging, and the economy has collapsed. So a lot of Islam, authoritarian fascism, and a collapsed economy. Possibly not all the Islamists concerned, but if you spent less time bending over and actually more time developing things, you would be doing a lot better. What a grim tribute to the folly of Western nations. I don't think it was. It wasn't. It was actually working. The folly was dopey Joe Biden pulling out. And I don't agree with President Trump on this one. They should have kept it. They had stability, and if the economy, but it was corrupt. So rather than actually trying to strengthen democracy and the ability to get other players in, the Western powers allowed it to be corrupt, and it's probably going to turn into a failed state as well with the Islamists in power. Oh, so as I said, we've already gone there with Esther McVeigh saying there's no more cash. Oh, great, that's great. Oh, here we go, and this is correct. This woman's correct. Officer
That's my girl
Tatum,
right there.
Officer Tatum, yeah, great.
This video is brought to you by The Officer Tatum Store. The Officer Tatum Store. Get the merch link in the description section. OfficerTatumStore.com. So anytime I go live, I make a video. Let me just say this. This is the difference between liberal women and conservative women. Conservative women go so much harder than liberal women. Conservative women are so much more powerful, stronger.
See, they use liberal to actually include postmodernist Marxists. Postmodernist Marxists, racist Marxists are not liberals. I'm liberal, they're not liberal.
Confident, I would argue better looking. Conservative women are what's up. I ain't gonna lie. Lisa Booth, one of my favorites. She does a tremendous job on Fox. She's probably one of my favorite people on Fox. She does an incredible job articulating herself, being clean, straightforward, to the point, killing it. But I want y'all to hear this because I feel like this is, and I hope they don't ban me, I'm not endorsing exactly what she's saying. I'm just passing on information and reviewing what was said on television. So she spoke about and exposed what all of us is thinking. And I don't want to say the words, but what all of us are thinking. Just listen to what she got to say. Lisa, roll the film.
I mentioned this last night on Dan Bunn Gino's show. I've not had COVID to my knowledge, yet we see so many high...
Well, I have had COVID. I didn't have any vaccinations. It was a dodo. It was less than it was like a very mild cold. I was expecting it to be a lot worse, and it was like a very mild cold. No vaccinations, and I wasn't hospitalised. Didn't take any drugs. So for me, it was nothing. And yeah, I didn't require big pharma sticking whatever in my arm. And now booster shots and all sorts. And the vaccinated people can still transmit the virus, and vaccinated people are still making up, I think, 70% of the deaths as well. So obviously it doesn't work. Or no, it doesn't not work, but it might not have the effect that you actually anticipate.
People who are vaccinated who have gotten COVID. So
yeah, me. And why is my antibodies, which has greater protection than the actual infection, not being recognised by wee Nippy? Why is that? Because she's obviously in the pocket of Big Pharma.
How many people did those individuals spread COVID to? Are they dangerous? Should they be shamed? Should they be denied medical care because of that? It's so unserious. It's so anti-science. We've gotten to a place where there's no common sense allowed to
Officer Tatum's got the same headset as me.
Exist here anymore. And we know it's not about public health. This White House wants to vaccinate 28 million children ages 5.
Now, there was something on Instagram that was saying that pregnant women, there was a spike in infant mortality in Scotland, and the advice that pregnant women should take this COVID test, there has been questions if there has been a linkage there.
5 to 11 who have an almost 100% survival rate against COVID. And if it was about public health, why would anything other than the vaccine be maligned? Why is ivermectin maligned? Why are monoclonal antibodies maligned? They were when DeSantis first started pushing them. If it was about public health, wouldn't we want an all-of-the-above approach? Wouldn't it be anything that could potentially save lives?
But wee Nippy wants to... Wee Nippy and Bojo to a lesser extent, I don't know if the English would put up with that, but certainly in Scotland, we are to be able to kowtowed by the authoritarian, lesbian, intersectional, postmodernist, Marxist, feminist, globalist shill wee Nippy. And she's got us locked in her house, and we're all doing what we're told, like good wee sheeple.
Why is it only the vaccine or else?
Boom!
Yeah, boom. Thank you very much, Officer Tatum.
How about this? The head teacher
of Britain's most expensive school, has quit her job after a woke race row was sparked by a group of parents. Yes, in a 12-page letter, Robin Appleby from the American school in London was accused of indoctrinating children because they believe every subject, from art to literature to history, is now being taught through a prism of race or gender. The letter also alleged that a recent decision to create racially segregated after-school clubs in which pupils mix solely, you can't believe this stuff, can you? Pupils mix solely with people of the same ethnicity was illegal as it breaches the Equality Act. Parents fight back. The silent majority fights back against the woke mob. Well done to those parents for standing up.
Yeah. Well done. That's good. More good stuff. What's Murdo saying? Why the SNP bid to extend the vaccine passport went nowhere fast in today's Scotsman column. Let's have a look at what the Scotsman's saying. Why the SNP's bid to extend the vaccine passport went nowhere fast. Oh. By Murdo Fraser. In any modern liberal democracy, sake, what's going on? How did you get out of that? What's going on here? Oh, that's weird. Right. We're not going to be looking at that. Oh, here we go. There's Jojo Cherry. Cherry by name, Cherry by nature. TERF. I knew she was a man hater when I spoke to her. I mean, how rude was she? If you haven't listened to me taping Joanna Cherry, go back and listen to Guerilla TV, Joanna Cherry. There's two up and me talking to Joanna Cherry. Yeah, I'll tackle all of these characters as well. I think Alex Salmon is more like a social democrat. Actually, Alex was quite good in power, but yeah, I mean, the TERF movement here, the men hating lesbians. So what's 9? What's ITV? I don't know.
Yes, I am going to push for another independence referendum. Do you?
But if she pushes and fails, she's going to be another Alex Salmond. And our disastrous domestic policies have just been a joke.
I believe there is a passion within Nicola Sturgeon to make this happen as soon as possible?
Well, I'm sure there is. I mean, it's what she's dedicated her entire life, adult life, to. But there is a...
Yeah, is it? Because it just seems like she's doing everything the woke and the globalist show. I don't think... I think she might actually be dedicated her entire life to globalism, to the globalist agenda, the one world government, the one world currency. She seems like just a shell for the globalists, not a nationalist, as she's rightly said.
The difference between her being passionate about a referendum and actually being able to deliver it. You know, this is...
Yeah. And what she should do, and I don't think the SNP are clued up enough on this to actually do it. But what she should do is like a Devo Max situation. If she won the Devo Max situation, then it would be a shorter. If the SNP and the Nationalists were wanting independence, it would be a shorter move to get independence from Devo Max. And she might actually win a Devo Max referendum rather than going for complete independence, because that would increase the powers that were in the Scottish Parliament, and she would have more control potentially of the economy and things like that. So rather than going, and that would also circumnavigate the fact that she would have another referendum on independence. She could win that battle, because if she loses the battle on independence, if the SNP lose this battle on independence, it'll be 50 years, and then people are going to start looking at their atrocious domestic policies, incompetent, absolutely abysmal domestic policies that they all should be sacked for. So that's just the situation. So there are basically a joke when it comes to domestic policies. That's my main bugbear. It's not about the nationalism, but if she's not a clever politician, she's not a clever leader, she's not a clever politician, she's not got clever policies, and that if she was a clever politician, she would have actually gone for a Devil Max situation that she could win. If she goes for the independence referendum that she loses, that Boris should actually give them a second referendum, because if they lose it, that means there will be another 50 years, a generation to get another one. Or the Scottish people would have to vote for another nationalist party to actually then show their, like the Scottish Libertarian Party, that they would have to go to another party to actually then potentially get because they couldn't get another one with the SNP. Because the SNP would be finished and it would just be a joke because their domestic policies are a joke.
This is a fantastical conversation. Nicola Sturgeon cannot deliver a referendum.
So she can't deliver if Boris says no, but I think Boris should say yes, because if they lose again, that's Nicola Sturgeon in big soapy bubble. She'll get kicked out. She wouldn't get to her five-year term. She'll do it 2023 and have to resign like Alex Salmond. But Alex Salmond's got more decency than Nicola Sturgeon. Nicola Sturgeon is a horrible wee monster.
Now, she has to lead her supporters up to the top of the mountain every so often and so on.
Yeah, to get the postmodernist globalist agenda in the back door.
Just to keep their spirits up, but it doesn't change the fundamental reality, which is that there is no prospect. Nobody at Holyrood believes seriously there is going to be a referendum on anything like the Times.
Well, I think that's a mistake, because obviously the polls, if they get beaten again, that's the SNP in big problems, because they won't get a third one until another 50 years. And you wouldn't vote for them. You wouldn't vote if the SNP if it wasn't like the unionist versus the nationalist argument, and you were just voting for the SNP on their domestic policies, you wouldn't vote for them. They're as incompetent as the Labour Party, and it's basically left-wing politics that are incompetent.
Skill the First Minister pretends. And it seems to me that we might be a bit better off if we accepted that, recognised it, moved on and talked about other things. I mean, it is now... Yeah, because other things that she's not addressing are more important, have a greater significance. Nobody's going to put their trust in me and Nippy being a postmodernist, lesbian, intersectional, feminist, Marxist, postmodernist Marxist with no children when she can't even run the country. 6 years since Nicola Sturgeon said her, and I quote, defining mission, unquote, was closing the attainment gap between rich and poor kids in Scotland's schools.
Yeah, and we're also going down the international league tables for our schooling. So our school reforms have been a joke. And there's no improvement in the attainment between rich and poor kids. So again, not delivering. I mean, so I could go through every policy that she's not delivered on.
Schools. She didn't seem to be spending very much time talking about that these days. So perhaps it was never her defining mission. A referendum is not going to happen until such time as a clear majority of people in Scotland make it clear they want one. Well, it would be... If you were looking at it from Bojo's point of view, it would be better to give them a second referendum just now and beat them, knowing that the polls were going in your favour, and call the SNP's bluff, which would then cause major problems. That would be the defining point for the SNP and blow them out the water just now. So that would be the thing they should do, because if they get to a stage where there is a majority in Scotland calling for independence, by that time for the unionists it would be too late. So that's me being equal and presenting both sides of the argument. After 60% or 55% that's now supporting independence, and it's been consistent, and then you have to call the referendum, the likelihood is, from the unionist point of view, you're going to get beat. If Boris gives them a second referendum and the polls are in the favour of the unionists, then there's going to be potentially a win, and it's going to destroy the SNP. That they consent to a referendum. That consent, that desire, is not present at the moment.
Yeah.
And this is very difficult to see the circumstances in which it becomes apparent in the next couple of years.
But Alex Massey, you and I both know that the notion that people are going to stop talking about a referendum anytime soon is fanciful because it suits people to keep talking about it. She did say, as well as putting the legislation in place, she and her party next year will lay out the prospectus or the positive case for independence. That's a big moment, isn't it? That's something of real substance.
Well, it'd be a fraudulent case.
Well, that's for you to say. Nevertheless, it's for people to analyse. It's something actually meaty to talk about, isn't it? Something to get your teeth into.
No, it would be something meaty to talk about if there were going to be a referendum. But there isn't going to be a referendum on the timescale the First Minister says, unless something very surprising and at the moment unforeseeable happens.
But that prospectus could shift the dial, couldn't it?
Divert attention away from the fact that her government is not meeting its targets on the NHS, it's not meeting its targets on education, it's not meeting its targets on the economy, it's not meeting its targets on building ferries. It's, this is all a game. It's a smokescreen.
OK, Shona Craven, do you...
Yeah, so it's been a disaster, which is correct. All of which is correct. Dominic Frisby.
New COVID variant with 32 horrific mutations detected in Africa amid fears it could escape vaccines.
Apparently, AIDS and COVID are going to merge and we're going to get flying AIDS.
Josh, you've got this one.
I'm slightly scared about this because I'm worried that this tape is going to be played. Like, before I start joking about this particular mutation, I'm worried that aliens in the future are going to play this clip, go, oh, look at this idiot, like, talking about the variation that killed all of humanity. So hopefully that's not what's going to happen.
Well, we should stress it's only been found in very small numbers.
Yeah. So now, I think first of all, it's become really part of tradition now. Like, you know, it's coming up to Christmas. The high street get the lights, the Christmas trees go up, and then we find a new variant. I think this is going to be part of the new Christmas tradition, finding new variants every year, which are going to ruin everything. I don't think it's gone that far yet. The most important thing, of course, is we have to find a name that's not racist. That's probably the first thing. It's like, it comes from, I think, at the moment it's in Botswana and South Africa and Hong Kong, so we've got to find some sort of neutral name.
Oh... This guy's good. No,
Violence.
Is that the fellow that was at the... This guy's good. Is that the guy that was on the Joe Rogan podcast?
AKA Math Boy Fly publicly called for violence against white people on Facebook, and Facebook allowed it. He called...
Yeah, I've been banned. I never called for violence on Facebook, and I've been banned on Facebook. And yeah, so it's rules for thee, but not for me on Facebook. Well, that will soon be sorted out.
To knock white people, including elderly white people specifically. He made that very clear on his Facebook post. It's clear he eventually acted on it by massacring multiple white people with his SUV at the Christmas parade.
Which is being covered up by the media in America as well, because it's not a convenient story for them to cover. Let me just go on to Salty Cracker. Where is Salty Cracker? Salty Cracker. There's my brother there. Where is this? There it is, there. This is it.
So how do you deal with Trump supporters in your family?
Oh, no, is it? No, I don't think that says it. How do you deal with Trump supporters in your family? Hey, phone the FBI. I mean, they're real absolute pieces of work. A white kid shooting white kids in self-defence is racist. A black man mowing down 50 white people is not racist. Okay, got it. That was by Matt Walsh, but correct. There's Hum's are useless. NHS will take years to recover from pandemic, or your handling of the pandemic. Hum's are useless. Oh, there's this fella here. And they're talking
I do want to point to a story that kind of got buried.
Candice is great.
This week that was horrific, and I am going to viewer discretion. I want to caution this. If you don't have a stomach for this, you really should not be watching this video that we're going to show of Zach Stacy, who is a former NFL linebacker. This is the video of him beating his girlfriend, and this is a very important topic, so I want to get to it. We can watch some of this video, or close your eyes and don't watch, but I do want to show a little bit of it.
Look at this.
Way different now.
Oh, God. Very hard to get through. And the toddler is sitting on the couch watching this. So there's a child in this room that is watching this. It doesn't end there. We're just showing you that clip because then he comes.
But that's not the one I wanted to show. Where is Salty Cracker when you need him? I can't remember which one is. Where is it? Has it been taken down?
At the other end of life, at the beginning of life, Stella Creasy, the Labour MP, doesn't like not to be talked about, does Stella? Really doesn't like not to be talked about. She has complained that she's being told off for bringing her 3-month-old baby into Parliament. She's been bringing her sleeping baby, she says, into the chamber.
It's not that. Oh. Oh. I have to say, Brendan always makes good commentary. Oh, here we go. This is hilarious, this.
On taking the knee,
this is this is Dopey Gareth, whatever his
get
name
involved
is.
in politics at all for this reason, because as soon as they insisted on taking the knee throughout the Euros, despite a lot of public opposition, they now have to be accountable morally to wherever they play, whatever moral cause they take on. And I don't think they should have to do it, but this is a rod they've created for their own back.
Absolutely. You know, when you start pretending to be these virtuous people, bending down and taking the knee and standing up against injustice, then people are naturally...
But they're bending the knee for a racist, neo-Marxist organisation, so...
...going to ask you, well, why aren't you standing up against other forms of injustice? And in fact, worse forms of injustice. So in Qatar, you know, Gareth Southgate says we're going to educate ourselves. It shouldn't take him very long. You know, in Qatar, if you are a gay person, you can be jailed for up to 3 years. If you're a woman, you have to ask a male guardian for permission to do the most basic things. Women don't have rights. If you are a migrant worker, you will work in the most extraordinarily punishing conditions for poor pay, and you risk your own life and health. So these facts are all out there. They're widely known. And yet Gareth Southgate says it's complicated, which he never said about Black Lives Matter, a deeply unpopular movement, which is what taking the knee represents.
But Gareth Southgate will probably be the globalists and Bojo's bitch as well, so he'll probably been told. There's no way that all of these footballers will have done this all off their own back, and not one of them had an IQ high enough to actually say, no, I'm not taking the knee because I've got political differences. They were told, and the clubs were probably told by the political class to do this.
He never said it about the United States.
And by the Conservative Party, supporting a black, racist, Marxist organisation.
Never said it about any of the issues that footballers have been taking a stand on recently. But when it comes to Qatar, he kind of hangs his head and says, well, we're not sure if we'll take a protest. It really stinks of hypocrisy, actually.
No, it completely does. And you know what, Brendan? Guess what it comes down to? Moolah, the big bucks, because that's what footballers really care about.
So, quite interesting. Where is Salty Cracker when I need him? Salty Cracker. What? There's Fat Andy. You haven't hit the A&E target since 2017. The 2-month cancer target you haven't hit since 2013. More incompetence by wee Nippy. You have called for legislation to protect the NHS from Donald Trump. Maybe the NHS needs protection from Nicola Sturgeon. But that's an absolutely brilliant quote by Andy. I have to say, he is absolutely superb. Where is Salty Cracker? So don't forget the critical theory is there to break down the whole of our society. Yusuf warns it will take a number of years for the incompetence of our government for the NHS to recover from it. Davi Shridhar claims Nicola Sturgeon should have extended the COVID vaccine passport scheme. Yeah, I'm going right off her already, so I'll probably go and speak to her and find out where she is. So there's a lot of overlap here. UKIP rejoin the EU, Reclaim Party, the Party, and Heritage, Monster Raven Looney, Freedom Alliance, Independence, Greens, Liberal Democrats, Conservatives, Reform UK. There is definitely needing to be some sort of rationalisation of the overlap, which is definitely there. Class A drug possessions effectively decriminalised in Scotland. Nippy the authoritarian, Nicola Sturgeon, COVID is still with us and could be for some time yet. We simply cannot afford to let our guard down, read the First Minister. Oh, maybe we just can't afford to have you in charge any longer. Oh, here we go. So Amnesty International, the week after a Muslim killed a Conservative MP, murdered him in his surgery, and 2 weeks after that, and a week after, a Muslim tried to blow up children and mothers, newborn kids. These idiots are now talking about phobia against a child rapist death cult. We welcome the UK parliamentary debate secured for today by Afzal for Gorton to mark Islamophobia. So I don't know how you have a phobia against child rapists, sexual slave trading, mass murdering. 300 million people have died under Islam Awareness Month and are encouraged by the cross-party interest. So basically, our political class are all in favour, which they haven't protected children from being raped by Muslims or killed, and the Labour Party are sending their apologies to somebody who tried to blow up a hospital full of newborn children and mothers, and there's an irrational fear against an ideology that's killed 300 million people, which is fascist, totalitarian in its political nature. As I said, has sex slavery, child rape. I mean, it's just killing of homosexuals, killing of women who for adultery, killing of non-believers, just killing everybody that is not part of this child rapist death cult. Oh, there's Associated Media. So the great guy is Andy No, Associations of Media Matters, a political operative group for the Democrats, are concerned that violent history of Waukesha massacre subject will be used to harm bail reforms by leftists. So this guy had already threatened to blow up somewhere, and he was out on bail. There was only £1,000. If you look at the contrast between Kyle Wittenhouse and this fellow who shot up his school, it's obviously what we Nippy wants to do as well. It's one rule for one, one for another. Where is he? Oh, there's Piers Corbyn protesting.
Yeah, hello, Mr. Mayor. You said you wanted to move away from the pandemic, but every policy you have made till today, it's about zero COVID and continuing COVID forever. That's your fundamental policy. And what I need to ask you is, when are you going to get in touch with reality and end the COVID hoax? The whole thing is a complete scam. The whole.
Okay, we're not here to make speeches.
I like this fella so far. What I've seen of him, don't know him intimately, but what I've seen him publicly, he seems to be on message.
Your question is this transport? It's not transport related?
With the transport.
Okay, next question.
Well, you're not going to shut me up like this. You're not going to shut me up like this. Look, he need to answer. He need to answer about zero COVID.
No freedom of speech.
Don't put your hand on me. Stay away. Look, you will answer every single question. He's answering to the people. He wasn't even elected. Electronic machines were used to get you in. You are unelected. Listen. Answer the question. You're unelected. You're zero COVID. You want to push fascism on London using COVID. It's Agenda 2030. You will never ever put up with this. You need to understand. Look, not afraid of you. Not afraid of your terrorists.
Is this a democracy? Is this democracy?
Questions will come. Disgusting.
Yes, Piers Corbyn.
I didn't know Piers was here.
He's gonna be on the magistrate's court very soon again.
Shame on you! 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 Shame on you!
So, what's this fellow's name? I think his name's Jay something. What's his name? His name is Super GTV.
Hello, Mr. Mayor.
So you can go and watch it in Super JTV. Oh, here we go. I'm looking for this. So, again, covered up by the media, Salty Cracker, the main man.
Little girls, they make me feel so bad.
This is the Joseph Rissenbaum who raped 5 kids that the left seem to be exalting.
Around me, make me feel like I'm the only guy in town. I love little girls, they make me feel so good.
Well, friends, I made it through this weekend without overdosing on sodium because holy balls, man, these people really got hit right in their man-made vagina. My brother or daddy, when it comes to the Kyle Rittenhouse situation, I'm going to let all those other people, you guys have been doing a real great job beating up all of these Hollywood kid fuckers like Mark Ruffalo and Pedro. I like my cast members to be under 6 years old, Pascal allegedly. Let's hit some of these Democrat shithead mayors, boys. Let's go after Mayor Bill de Blasio, who came out and he said, oh my God, says everybody, this verdict is disgusting and sends a horrible message to this country. Where's the justice in this? It's right there, bro. It's right there. And if you're going to run your mouth like this and you're concerned about, how we can't let this go. We need stronger laws to stop. Ain't need no Snake Plissken's, right? Fucking hell. I mean, like, I don't know how many videos we've made on New York lately, but holy shit, this every time I go, all right. So people are being stabbed in broad daylight in a crosswalk. All right. You can't get much worse than that. Okay, so there's some dude out there firing some random shots in the street. Okay, so now there's a gang shootout in the middle of the street. Okay, so now little kids are being fucking shot. Okay, no. Now we're at the point where they're setting people on fire. Holy fuck. And of course, you ain't gonna hear about this. Now, if you reverse the races over here, if you had a black homeless dude being set on fire by a chunky white guy over here, then you definitely hear about it on MSNBC and all these other race-baiting shithole platforms out here. But because it's a white dude being set on fire by a black dude, you ain't gonna hear anything about this. But, I mean, listen to what I just said. You've got a stairwell in this building in New York City where some rando dude just goes in and says, I'm gonna set this motherfucker on fire. Kills him. He's dead. He burned to death, set another human on fire. Like it was the fucking 1400s looking for some sort of duck witches or something. This is insane. What are you doing? Holy shit. And again, if you're the mayor of this place, maybe you shut the fuck up when it comes to anything law and order. But no, all these people running their mouths. All of these people running their mouths, but take a look at this. New York Post. Harrowing video shows homeless man being torched to death in stairwell. They found the guy, by the way. It took a day to do this. I'm actually kind of shocked. He totally won't be a career felon, boys. Totally won't be somebody that the criminal justice system inside New York City has applied the revolving door to. Of course not. Of course not. All right. I'm sure that this guy, he's future in.
This is what happens when you put an idiot in a position of power. When a person who's a mental retard is put in a position like wee Nippy, is not up to the job, and you put her in a position of power. Not her per se, just anybody who is not up to it, who's an idiot. This is the personification of an absolute buffoon. She should be a celebrity and not in the position of political power. An absolute clown.
Engineer and doctor on his way to doctor engineering school and accidentally set this fucking dude on fire. Right? Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Homeless man who had been set on fire while he slept inside a Manhattan stairwell has died of his injuries, police said. Video obtained by the Post. Oh god, we can't play any of that. That's gotta be nightmare fuel. That'd be a nightmare. I love it when Antifa accidentally sets themselves on fire. I can watch that shit all day long. But this video, I do not want to see. No. Leave that shit on rotten.com, boys. Anyway, video obtained by the Post of the harrowing November 5th attack shows the blaze slowly engulf the unidentified victim's body after his attacker took a handheld lighter to the man's left leg at Samuel Gomper's houses on Pitt Street. Will this be considered a coof death? Huh, Fauci? Coof death? Mostly coof death with the side of fire? Look at this. This is insane. This is epic, crazy levels of New York meth gator meth fuel. Bath salts, boys. This is fine, though, right? Hey, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, where are you at on this? Where are all the... Again, the biggest threat to society is who eats supreme pizzas? Really? 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 The 40 fucking people...
And I think there are more... Even though African-American men... And it's only a small percentage of these men. The vast majority are decent people. But there are more white people killed by African-American men... or European Americans killed by African American men than vice versa in America, and they make up like 6.5%, whereas European men make up 30-odd%. And so if you even increase the proportions to make it equal, so significantly more people, white people are killed by African Americans and vice versa.
Shot this weekend in Chicago, was that white supremacist? Right? All the people shot...
Based on the FBI statistics.
And all those people robbing a Louis Vuitton, the fucking purse place in San Francisco. White people? White domestic supremes? Huh? Fucking idiots. Fucking dude's on fire. The attacker flees and the second man walks over and by the victim as the flames build and fumes engulf the stairway, according to footage. The victim's body is entirely inflamed within moments. Wait, the attacker, a second dude just walks over. Again, people being stabbed in broad daylight. You can see these New Yorkers in the background like, this is what it's like on Wednesdays, man. What are you gonna do? You got two rival gangs, stormtrooper aiming, blasting, throwing rounds all down to fucking Manhattan. It's Thursday. What are you gonna do? Fucking hell. Nathaniel Terry, 27, who lives in the building, was arrested the day of the attack and charged with attempted murder. Well, upgrade that. Assault and arson, NYPD. The incident goes on to show it's now been ruled a homicide, police said. Cops pronounced the victim dead Thursday. His identity remains unknown. The 911...
That'll be this white supremacy. Oh, have I stopped you? Hold on, let me get myself back. Oh, we're back. What you guys saying? Cheers, got it. Love wee Salty. Yeah, Salty's great, Danny. Much better watching his video. Let me just make this bring up. Watching his videos on Odyssey, yeah, I think we'd all be changing that. The Guerilla TV channel soon have its own channel as well, so a lot of the stuff, we'll get other content creators to put their stuff up on theirs as well. The YouTube version of the videos are watered down and avoid being banned. Yeah, SNP should be renamed Snowflakes or Us. Yeah, I would be all for Indy, but as long as we shite Sturgeon and SNP are there, may as well stick with the UK government. I think that's true, Danny. I think there's a lot of Scots who feel that way as well. Not all nationalists are SNP supporters, especially under this mob. Nippy can piss off. Really glad I caught this stream. I haven't caught you online for ages. Yeah, I haven't been online, Danny. I've been otherwise doing stuff. Love your attitude, seeing and hearing you talk about real news for a sensible point of view. Thanks very much, brother. Like Stammer, like thing. Well, guys, man, I've enjoyed this. I hope you've learned and we've grown together in our politics. I can't believe that was stuck for a bit, but hey ho. But yeah, Salty's great. If you're not subscribed, subscribe. Great guy. Here's Avi calling himself a Jewish Nazi as far back. I know, but I think I was having a laugh with him about being called a Jewish Nazi. He was joking. I already saw it, and he had a laugh with it, and I knew he was having a laugh with it, Mr. Edmonds. But before that, they were calling him a Nazi in Australia. I'd met Avi Yemeni at this, and I had to just joke with him prior to him going up on stage about getting called a Jewish Nazi, the world's proudest Jewish Nazi. He was joking. I knew he was joking. If you actually look at the Guerilla TV's channel and see me talking to Avi about him prior to this getting called a Nazi, which I think is still disgusting, because he was taking a libertarian stance, not a national socialist stance. He's basically a Jewish libertarian, which there's Jewish socialists and Jewish, Jews cover the full political spectrum as well. But he was getting slandered by getting called a Jewish Nazi, and he's obviously being satirical here, and I understood it. I got it right away. He's a lovely fellow. I think Avi Yemeni should do his political compass test, and I think it will show that he's actually a libertarian. I love my baby gorillas. Hope you enjoyed that, guys. Love you guys. Sorry, I think my stream get frozen, but I don't know what's happening here. That my stream seems to be getting frozen from time to time. I don't understand that. I've got who are probably on his shush. So, guys, hope you enjoyed it. Hope you had a good time. And till next time, I'll try not to make it so long. I've quite enjoyed that tonight, getting back in my swing of things. How'd you get out of here?